Instead, we're going to throw it over to Double Down here, who is one of my special guests. Good evening, Double Down. How are we doing?
Schwantz, I'm doing wonderful. Thanks so much for having me. I am very excited to talk about some Flashback Battle Royale. It's going to be a fun event. We've got some really fun flag sets. It's going to be a really good time. I've signed up. You've signed up. I know somebody else who's probably signed up, and he's also here with us. Drinks Glue, how are you doing today?
My friend, I am doing very well. Yes, indeed, I have signed up. And yeah, I am looking forward to it very much so.
Yeah, so this is sort of a celebration of the years that have gone since the beginning of the release of Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. As you saw in that little promo video that someone by the name of me put together there using some fantastic hacking editing tools. So we've come a long way since we first started this, and we've had a bunch of different events in our community, and this is sort of a celebration of some of those memorable and, in certain cases, in some of these flag sets, infamous ones here. So Double Down, why don't you take us a little bit through what the event is all about here?
Sure. Yeah. So what we've got is a 9-week battle royale. Now, we have done a few of these battle royales in the past, the Blackjack Battle Royale, the Battle Royale 2022, which I think we see on the screen right now, one of the flag sets from. These all have worked in a fairly similar fashion where, every week we're going to have an async race. Everybody's going to get in there. They're going to race just like it's, a normal Ultras League season or something like that. But at the end of the week, we're only going to be able to bring on a certain amount of people to our next one. Like a battle royale game, the battlefield is getting smaller. The same thing happens with these races. So after the first week, maybe only 60 people get to advance to the next week. After the second week, maybe only 50 and 40 and 30 and 20, until at the end of 9 weeks, only one person is able to advance. And that person, we're going to call them the winner. They're going to be the winner of the whole event. So each week is going to be a different flag set. All of them you're seeing on the screen right now being drawn from events we've done in the past. Now you might be thinking, geez, some of these people are really good. This Drinks Glue guy knows what he's doing. Schwantz, pretty scary racer. I've seen some of the other names who have signed up. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it past week 3. Don't you worry. Your old Uncle Double Down has got you covered. He sees you. He knows what's going on. We have something called Memory Lane. So kind of a consolation bracket where if you get knocked out in the first few weeks, you will have one last chance to fight your way back in for the end. Basically, you'll be running in a different large async with other people who have run into a sad, unfortunate fate in the first few weeks. And at the end of that session, whoever's earned the most points, the most XP, I believe it's called, will get one last chance to be entered back into the main event and go on. So, hope is not lost if things go badly at the beginning. But at the end of 9 weeks, somebody is going to be the king of Worlds Collide history, the greatest time traveler of all. I don't really know. There's not a fancy name for the overall winner. They're just the grand champion of our hearts and somebody that we'll look up to as a role model.
Yeah, for sure. I am really excited to dive back into some of these old flag sets that have been dusted off. Now, originally Double Down, when we were coming up for a sort of a concept here, we took a look and downloaded some of these seeds. There is a seeds and VODs sort of spreadsheet that's floating around, and it's in one of the pinned channels somewhere, or pinned in one of the Discord channels somewhere. I tried playing some of these old seeds, and boy, let me tell you, you can totally tell the difference between then and now in terms of how things play. It is incredible to download one of these old seeds. I think I downloaded one of the old KGP Kefka Grand Prix seeds from a while back, and there isn't a configuration menu before you start the game. You hit A and the game literally just starts, and I was just taken aback and go, wow, okay, I guess this is, bite the pillow, we're just going in here.
Yeah, woof. Some of those old flag sets, some of the quality of life things we take for granted. Even just setting aside, there's no Moogle defense or things like that. It's, getting in the airship and you're back on Narsh again for like the 18th time in the seat because the airship is stuck to Narsh like a magnet. It builds a lot of character, and I hate building characters, so it's a painful experience. That was one of the original plans, to put that in the event. However, we did find a way to keep that great idea in place. So we do have the Seed of the Week takeover, and starting next week, for the duration of this event, while the main event is doing stuff like Moogle's First Tournament or the Coliseum Grand Finals in a new race, we will be replaying some of those actual old seeds. So with all the crazy, all the crazy flashes and all the terrible airship mechanics, and I think Ebbett's Rock requires 74 pieces of coral back then, and you have to go uphill both ways in the cave too. So
you don't get teleported after Kefket in our show, man.
You sure don't. You have to do the walk of shame. So we'll be reliving some of those exact seeds. So maybe, if you've heard of things like KGP Week 6 or some of those gems, well, get ready to live the experience yourself.
So, yeah, so there was a decision point to say, you know what, let's roll these same or similar enough flag sets, but using the 1.4.2 version of Worlds Collide, both for aesthetic reasons like that, and I think there was probably technical reasons too. It's just very difficult to get some of the older versions of Worlds Collide to actually generate seeds for you, even if you download them, because they run on older versions of Python and all that other fun stuff. But that was certainly a decision that we made, I guess, a little early on to go, you know what, let's get the spirit of these flag sets and let's go from there, because there are definitely certain options that we have now that we didn't have then. So I think that'll be reflected in some of these older flag sets, correct?
That's it, exactly. It's the characteristics of the old flags, and we're trying to emulate the look and feel of those old flag sets as much as possible, but with some of the comforts of home. So, we're not going to get rid of Moogle Defense. We're not going to get rid of Ebbett's Rock only requiring, I think it only requires 7 pieces of coral now. I think we've got it down to. So, those QOL changes are alive and in play.
You're talking like a citizen of Zozo, and we'll sort of get into that a little bit later on here. Which one of these flag sets, I think, are you most looking forward to playing, and which one of them are you least looking forward to playing? And I guess maybe we can talk about that as we go through each individual one, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's one that my notes on my little page here, my first note is just ugh. And when we get to that flag set, I'll tell you which one that is. But to be honest with you, I think the one I'm most excited about, other than Doom's Rage, which is a lot of fun because the strategy is just wailing on things, but I'm excited about Edgar's Chainsaw, which we just saw on screen there for a second. That is one of the flag sets for the Coliseum 2 that didn't actually get used in the main event. I think there were 2 or 3 that didn't get used. That one, I think Celeste's Runic whatever, and I don't even remember what the other one was, but didn't actually get used in the main event. So we've got a chance to give new life to a flag set that we didn't get a chance to play the first time around. So I'm excited, even though, as I will tell you a little later on, I am awful at barter sets or barter flags. So it's going to be a tough one for me.
Yeah, I do recall we didn't get to play this during the event, but during one of our practice things for the event, we did get to actually play this one. So that'll be a fun one to see get played again as well. Barter seeds are usually pretty fun, and I think there's a wild diversity in these different sets of flags that were chosen. And I did sort of notice, as I think, let's go back here to the schedule, because we'll talk about that now. That the flags, the week 2 almost notwithstanding, and maybe even week 4, they sort of get more difficult as you go on a little bit here during the battle royale. I'm guessing that was done on purpose.
That was definitely no accident. So we're really starting off as easy. Also, we're going to talk in a second about Moogle's First Tournament in a little more detail, but we're trying to really ease people into the shallow end. Moogle's First Tournament, not a flag set you probably need to put a ton of practice into. If you've played Ultros League, or even closer, if you've played Moogle Cup, you pretty much know what the score is here. Coliseum Grand Finals, okay, a little spicier. Ultros League Season 1, again, we're all used to it. And then we start getting a little bit, you took the words right out of my mouth with Maduin Table. So yeah, things start getting a little more spicy after that. But there's a little time. So those first 3 weeks, they're actually a really good opportunity to practice some of the flag sets from weeks 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
the special 11 one that we won't talk about. So if you do want
the secret weeks,
if you do want to sign up, that's the link right there. We'll put it in the chat, or it's also in the Discord everywhere. We have until January 12th to sign up, and week 1 we'll be starting January 12th, noon Eastern time, and that will be Moogle's first tournament. So I guess let's dive into the flag set for Moogle's first tournament here. So I'll pull up the infographic, but what I'll do in the background while you talk about it a little bit is I'm going to pull up an actual seed so that we can go through what the flags look like on the website, what the flags might look like in the text file that you get when you download the seed, and then also what they look like in the actual game itself, because I know that some of our newer players were having a little bit of trouble dissecting how do you read the flags if you're not used to playing these seeds, right? For people that normally just either stick to Ultras League or Moogle Cup, but they want to dip their toe in something just a little bit different here.
Yeah, that'll be really helpful. And I think, when we're talking about just dipping your toe in, this is the perfect flag set to talk about that, because really every skill you've learned in sort of any standard race of Worlds Collide will be more or less transferable to Moogle's first tournament. We ran this event a couple years ago to bring in an influx of new players who wanted to be coached, and this is sort of the spiritual ancestor, I guess, of Moogle Cup. So you can kind of consider this flag set a cousin to Ultras League. A lot of the basic principles of Ultras League really do apply to Moogle Cup. So you really just want to remember the things that are going to give you a little bit more of a leg up in this versus something like Ultras. So there's a few different wrinkles here, like the experience scaling is a little higher, so you're going to get levels a little faster. Ultima only costs whatever it costs in vanilla, was it 80, something cheap like that. So you've got a very abusable Ultima. The Espers are a random learn rate, so you're going to occasionally get Espers that are going to teach you some stuff a little faster than you're used to. Things like Life 3, Merton, Ultima. Expect to see stuff beyond just 1 times learn rate like we see in Ultras League. Multi-summon, that one's in red because it's a bit of a difference, and it's also very, very easy to forget. I usually remember multi-summon is on right around tier 2, sometimes tier 3 in Final Kefka, so that means there's an entire seed worth of time that I could have been abusing. Things like even silly stuff like Phantom or Golem is really useful. Things like Kieran or even things like Zone Seek. And then, of course, attacks like Bahamut are useful throughout a seed. So multi-summon, remember it, use it, very useful. Chests and shops, fairly similar to what we're used to in other flag sets. The other key thing, restoring undead bosses. So that means you can save a bunch of time by using Revivify or Phoenix Down on the undead bosses. It's a very short list. You don't have too many of them to remember. In fact, there's really just 3 of them that are relevant. Yeah, Haydn. Haydn is undead. Hit him with Revivify, he's gone. He's gone forever. You'll never have to talk to him again till the next seed. You've got the Ghost Train, which now you might be saying double down. That's a robot. It's not a robot. It's a ghost. Yeah, you've got 2 turns in that fight. The first one, suplex. The second turn, Revivify. Ghost Train, more like Gone Train. And then the other one, of course, would be the other undead boss, which I had in the top of my mind a minute ago, and now it's gone. But Senior Behemoth, the second form of Senior Behemoth. Yeah. So yeah, basically that. And then you've got some high tier quests. There's 3 of them. The Perform in the Opera for high tier item, I would say that's a bit of a trap. That's about a 5-minute investment of your time. The music is delightful, still brings a tear to my eye, the entire sequence, but is it worth a high tier item that could be an Illumina, or it could be a red cap or something like that? Probably not. However, suplex a train. If you see a train, yes, suplex it if you can. And save Sid or kill Sid. That's usually pretty good. I would suggest considering doing that as your first thing to do in the seed. Just go down there. Killing Sid is usually a little faster unless you see a whole bunch of fast fish, but don't be afraid to go down and murder Sid and see if that opens up another option for the start of the seed. Is that about how you'd approach that, Schwanz?
I would actually save Sid. I think capturing the quicker fish is easier for me than waiting for the slow fish to wade its way all the way over there. But yeah, I performing in an opera at 4.5 minutes to do that for 1 item, unless you're really, really hurting for offense, I certainly wouldn't necessarily go ahead and do that.
And there's a lot of offense in this too.
Yeah, the other interesting thing to keep in mind is the stuff at the very top, that we have a Kefka unlock at our usual 6 characters and 9 espers, and then the skip is at 9 characters or 12 espers. Now, this flag set was sort of crafted before we had a concept of adding checks or number of checks as a particular objective condition.
We just got graded, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much for the raid, Moogleplex. Really appreciate that. Party of 9, come on in and hang out while we chat about the upcoming event. Appreciate that. So let's check out what it looks like in order to go through some flags here. And we'll do this seed first, and then maybe we'll do the next one as well, because it's a little bit different than what you're normally used to. So here you see basically my... if you click on a seed from Seedbot, you basically get brought to this page here where you scroll all the way down and you click generate and download it. But it actually has the settings for the seed in here. And yes, you could read the flags if you're odd and can understand all this cryptic language. But the important stuff is over here. It'll give you sort of all the settings, right? It'll tell you what your objectives are. And we saw, Kefka unlock is 6 and 9, and you need both of these things. KT skip is 9 or 12, and you need one of those things. And then here are your item and quests and objectives here. Next up comes your starting party, and this is where that increased character stats will be, your 100 to 125% there. So that's where you'll see your bump over here. And then all of the rest of the sort of abilities, we could talk about some of these later, but I think most of these are pretty standard throughout most of the flag sets that we've got. So next is the battle portion where you get your scaling in, and as you mentioned, double down. We've got higher XP than normal, so this is 2.5 times CED versus 2 times CED. And most of the rest of this is your standard fare, so I won't spend that much time on it. Like I said, we'll go over that next. The important part is this no undead. It's kind of like a double negative, which is kind of weird, but yes. So the fact that no undead is false means undead is true. So get your get your logic tables out when you're trying to read this, right?
Yeah, no, the undead bosses can't not be killed if you don't not avoid not using a Phoenix Down or a Revivify, but backwards of that.
Wonderful. So yeah, the multi-summon flag you'll see here is true. The magic is set to the original values. I think this was before we had randomization or lots of randomization of what the tiers of the magic spells cost you. So we decided to keep it original for Moogle's first tournament for people that are coming over maybe from vanilla, right? In here next, you'll see the increased shop inventory. It's shuffle plus random plus 35% here. You'll see that everything is sort of available in the shops. We have rods are available, right? We have elemental shields available. We have super balls available, and they're not the expensive variety. We have illuminas and experience eggs. Again, this double negative thing that you have to sort of watch out for, right? The chests are buffed a little bit here, 35% instead of 20%. The list of all your item rewards. Then this will come in later for Zozo's flag set, so we'll skip over this graphics section for now. And then here's like sort of the other miscellaneous flags down here, with Ultima being original, sort of as you mentioned here. So this is the other section that most people normally look at. And if you open up if you download the seed and then you open up the file itself that goes along with the seed, you can see this text document, right? And it's the exact same thing that we just looked at on the internet, basically. It's the same format and everything, which makes it, I think, really easy to kind of show you, but it will blind your eyes because there is no dark mode for this. So just be careful of it.
Now, Schwantz, I have a problem here because I hate the internet and I hate web browsers, and I also hate notepad and text files. Is there some way, like, I don't even want to leave my emulator. You know what? Like, my happy place is being in SNES 9X. If I'm not there, I get fussy. Just ask anybody. Can I see this in game?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and We also have a in this little menu that pops up, you could see your objectives here and scroll through it. It's the same as we've seen before. It's slightly different format. I think it's more easily readable in the emulator. And as you're going through the game, if you come back into this screen, if you've completed something, it will stay grayed out, which is really, really nice. And then the flags themselves are in the flags menu here, and you kind of get the same deal. It's just a compressed version of what we saw in either the spoiler file or the internet portion of it, right? You've got your scaling off in its own section here, so it's really helpful to be able to just open up the emulator and do it. You don't have to download anything. Well, you have to download the seed from the internet, but you don't have to go look at the browser. You don't have to go look at the text file inside of the zip file that you got. So that's sort of the way that you can go ahead and get it from the game itself, just in case anybody's not clear of how to do that. So that's
a huge relief, because I get my wife to download the seeds and put them in the emulator for me because of my hatred for the internet. One quick question too. Can you access that mid-seed? I know you can see it from the beginning of the game, but if I forget the objectives halfway through, because sometimes I do, sometimes I forget who I am or where I am, how could I find those in-game while I'm actually playing the seed?
Yeah, sure. Let me bring this back up then. While I wait for the loading screen to load, we did have a question from the chat about, even though this is an asynchronous event, do we have to record our streams and our runs? And the answer is yes. So just in case of things like you were within 1 second of some other runner, we want to make sure that we can look back at the footage and determine who the winner actually was, right? So that's part of the reason why we make sure that everybody records their runs. So at least record them and have them ready in case you're called upon to have a review. Anyway, so back to the question about how do I do this while I'm in the game. So I've started my game, right? I've seen this is a wonderful starting party here with Magitech making it rain on Cyan. But here is the track menu. It's about 3/4 of the way down. And this brings you up the objective menu, which we saw before. This brings up the list of checks that you have access to. It brings you up what your progress is. So in case you don't have a tracker or you don't use an auto tracker, you can actually look in here and see how far you are on your way to whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing to unlock Kefka. And then we have the flags here on the bottom. So again, it's all the same information just tucked away in this nifty little track menu, which I think is really nice. We don't have this track menu on some of the older seeds, so if you're playing the seed of the week, just know that Double Down, you might not be able to do this, just as an FYI.
So I will have to go to the internet. That's terrible.
Unfortunately, you will have to go to the internet. And I'm sorry, Cyan, but yes, you're going to have to use machinery.
I want to point out, too, just a real quick note. Like, what a professional you are, Schwantz, that the first thing you did, you opened it up, and even though we're demonstrating a menu, the first thing you did is put everybody in the back row. You are a pro.
That is muscle memory and nothing more.
I was surprised. I thought you were going to go equip a Moogle charm, too, before you went into that menu. I'm surprised you were able to stop yourself. It was wonderful.
So yeah, we have any other thoughts on Moogle's first tournament flags for week 1 there?
I mean, I think it's probably one of the, well, I mean, it was by design one of the quote unquote easiest flag sets. That does mean it's going to be a fast flag set. Somebody who's good at jet seed, you can usually assume this is going to be fairly jetty. So execution becomes a little more important in flag sets like this. There's not as many opportunities to just sort of outplay in terms of like finding the special thing that gets you through the seed. So it's a bit of a test of your ability to menu quickly, and just don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Once you've got a party that's good enough, just go. Your characters are strong in this flag set. Trust the seed to provide you with what you need.
All right, so another question from the chat. Do we need specific characters in order to complete some of these quests? And the answer is no. You can pick whoever is in your party and go and perform the opera. Just make sure you remember your lyrics and remember your places, everyone, when you stand, or else you will fail and it is a game over. Which means if you hadn't saved in a while, then you lost your run due to the opera. And then with saving and killing Sid, anybody can be a hero or a a, I guess, jury executioner, right? So anyone can do that.
Yeah, two out of the three. Now I have a quick question. I sometimes I get a little eager, I get a little anxious. I use my revivify on my train before I suplexed it. I want to go suplex it. Is there another train I can catch, or am I cooked? Am I done?
Yeah, so in order to make the train accessible for the suplex a train objective, if you have Sabin, you have to complete the Phantom Train check. And then you go back into the Phantom Forest, and instead of getting on the Phantom Train and doing the check all over again, you actually say, hey train, fight me bro, and that's how you could find the Phantom Train. But you need to have Sabin, and you need to complete the Phantom Train check in order to do the refight. So it's a little bit of an ask to do, so make sure you suplex it right the first time.
Suplex early, suplex often.
Yes. So let's have a little chat about next week's flag set. If you make it past the first gauntlet, you've made it past the first bubble, if you will, or the first circle. What's up next for everybody here?
Well, you go out of the opposite of the frying pan, out of the cooling pan, and into the fire. So the Coliseum Grand Finals, right off the hop, early flag sets are tricky, and this was a very early flag set, one of the very, very first organized events. I think after the tiny winter tournament and maybe the first KGP, I think this was one of the first ones. So it's a weird flag set. It's a very strange one. You're going to start with Mog, Strago, and Gao, which is good to know. It's going to be a vanilla Strago, a vanilla Mog, and Gao with Rage and GP range, just like in vanilla. They're all going to start naked. So they are all starting with no stuff, which sounds like no big deal. It's not a big deal, but it's a little bit of a deal because you'll just find your guys getting smoked a little bit more. You sort of take for granted the random headbands and mithril vests and whatever you start with. So expect to be taking a little more damage early on in the game until you found stuff. And don't be afraid, don't go out of your way, but don't be afraid to buy the odd mithril vest or mithril shield or mithril helm or whatever you see in the shop. Bum Rush last is important to note. So that means you do not have to wait till you get to level 42 to learn Spiraler before you can go learn Bum Rush. So if you have a character with Blitz early on, obviously it won't be at the beginning because we know who your starting people are. And that's, again, a Vanilla Gao. Vanilla Gao had GP Rain, not Blitz. So if you have a Blitz person early, Duncan's Cabin, go there right away. Bum Rush will solve many of your problems. The other big thing that we want to talk about is the split party XP. So if you've never played a seed with split party XP, what that means is that oh my goodness, we're skipping ahead. We're time warping already.
I'm hitting the wrong buttons here.
You're playing me off. I need to talk faster about the Coliseum. Bum Rush last means that you've got to go to. Okay, yeah, I'll slow down. So split party experience means that normally in Worlds Collide, with the normal flags we play in, when a monster dies, you get the full dose of XP, a full force blast of XP to all your party. In this, they're a little more selfish. They're going to split it up and divvy it up between them. That's exploitable in that if you have less than 4 characters, that means there's more XP to go around. So if if you only have 3 good characters, you start with 3 superheroes right off the start with Strago, Mog, and Gao. Go ahead and just not add a 4th character, or kill your 4th character, or maybe even kill 2 or 3 characters. So that will funnel more XP, and then you can get 1 character higher level. So if there's 1 character in your party who's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, don't be afraid to funnel a little bit more of the XP to them. Get them strong, get them, angry a little earlier, and then they can carry you and help level up the other people. You can and probably should play most of the seed with 3 characters, and again, I would drop to 2 or even 1 tactically, depending on the situation, how strong your characters are. The experience is a little faster. You're getting 7 times experience after fight, so there is a lot more to go around, but that split party XP does kind of sap it. Scaling is tough here.
Oh, I was going to say,
go ahead.
Let me interject real fast. So if you're comparing this to a quote-unquote normal seed, normally your experience multiplier is 3. Right? So think of it as each one of your party members is getting 3 times the experience for a fight. In this case, the whole party is getting 7, but that is being split X number of ways. So if you have a party of 2, each character gets 3.5. If you have a party of 3, each character gets whatever 7 divided by 3 is. It's a hair more than 2. And if you have a party of 4, you're actually going to get less than 2, right? It's like 1.75 or 1.6 repeating or whatever it is, right? So that is something to keep in mind. So even with a party of 3, you will still get slightly less experience than you're normally used to with how the math works out here.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to be aware of that and just understand why your characters are leveling up so slow. If you've got 4 of them, now you know why. That 7 times experience, not so great when it's being split 4 ways into 1.75 for each person. Now, the scaling is also really high in this. 3 times CED is tough. So, be aware of that monsters are going to get out of hand. Their XP rewards are also going to go up, but still, 3 times CED means that things are going to get spooky very quickly. And don't forget that they're already starting with an extra 3 levels, so it's as if you've already found an extra character when you start the seed off in terms of the power level of the bosses. 20% encounter is unescapable, more annoying than anything. You can't really plan around it. There's no Ultima, of course, that's kind of a thing too. The other key things to really look for here is that we do have normalize and distort. And normalize and distort means that bosses are going to be randomly hitting a little bit harder. They're going to be having different amounts of HP than you're used to. So you'll find bosses just don't quite die when you expect them to. And some of them hit a lot harder. You're going to get one shot by leader axes. You're going to get smoked, just absolutely crushed by martial charges. So just be aware of that. Between normalize and distort, the plus levels, and the 3 times scaling, honestly, monsters and bosses can get out of hand pretty quickly in this flag set. So I wouldn't be afraid. I'm not usually a big grinder, but I wouldn't be afraid to grind if your fights are kind of going slow, or if you feel like you've had some really dicey boss fights where you're surviving by the skin of your teeth. This is a good time to maybe embrace the grind a little bit. Don't forget too, you are starting with Mog, so this is one where I would maybe think about having Narsh be your first step in your looting opening. That way you can trigger Lone Wolf right away, and then if you do decide to come back and do Narsh later, you have 0 risk of forgetting to start the Lone Wolf event because you've already looted the treasure room. You've already started Lone Wolf. So, otherwise, I probably aim to look at the Gao checks to start. If you find dried meat, you probably are looking to open the seed up by going to the Veld, dropping your dried meat off, getting your prize, and then going to the Serpent's Trench. Otherwise, it's just a tough seed. This is when you probably want to play, practice 1 or 2 just to get used to it. Again, it's not like there's any crazy bells and whistles. It's just a tough seed, and it's not going to be nearly as forgiving as the Moogle first tournament was.
Yeah, so going back to, looking at the flags sort of in this way. Now, I want to reiterate that the infographics that you have, they have most of what is changed, but maybe not everything that is changed, and maybe not everything that you think is important to be changed, right? Or to call out, I should say. But here we've got our Mog, Strago, and Gao with our Rage and GP Rain here. So that's sort of how to read more a little bit into this party setting. The battle and scaling, again, this double negative, no XP party divide, false, meaning, experience is going to be divided against your party. Dragons are unscaled, right? So be careful when you go up against them as well. Here's your other scaling, normalize and distort being true is over here, right? And the no undead is true, so this is different than what you saw before. Can't Phoenix down or revivify, easy bosses there. One interesting thing that I don't think you called out on the chart that I want to call out here. Where is it? Aha.
Stronger Atma weapon, false. Yeah, I thought that might be the case.
Yeah, so this was a flag that was introduced way more recently than a lot of people think it was, I think. There, for the longest time when I joined Worlds Collide, the Atma weapon was an always sell because you wouldn't be able to get it online until level 64. So there was no point never having it, right? So you'd always sell it. In some of these older flag sets, an Atma weapon is not in the item reward pool. You don't see it in here. And the stronger Atma weapon flag will be off. So just keep that in mind as you're playing some of these older seeds. Make sure you look at this before you decide, oh, I'm going to level up this character to use this Atma weapon, and then you're wondering why it's terrible in the end game. Is because it's actually, the damage formula has not been modified by some of our later updates, right? So just wanted to, sort of call that out and say, make sure you read all of the flags, not just the stuff that's on the infographic, because I know this wasn't on here, but as someone who played some of these older seeds, I know that this is the case, right? So yes,
I mean, it's definitely you always want to check. Like, I mean, you're exactly right. We can only put so much on the infographics before we've just replicated this text file on the infographics. So we've tried to hit the high points, but there's no substitute to reading those yourself. Go through, you're going to catch things like the unskilled dragons, or even the little details. Like, I didn't mention that there's no possess on any of these, but there's no possess on any of these. Little things like steel being original versus higher chances, like those aren't really on the infographics. So if you want that kind of player's edge, go read those seeds and study them in detail, memorize them, make flashcards.
Yeah, so question from the chat. If there's no Ultima, is it less likely valuable to get the Paladin shield? Yes, by default, but I would still, uncurse it if the number is right and if you have the correct gear for it, right? If you have a ribbon or if you find a peace ring early on, then yeah, I'm going to do it. If I don't find that, then I probably won't.
Yeah,
it's not as valuable.
It doesn't teach you the best spell in the game. It only makes your character functionally invincible. It's like, I guess it's still okay. I guess I'll still use it because it makes me immortal. Sure. Yeah, it's still a good pickup. I would wear a Paladin shield all day, every day if I could.
All right, so we'll I think pick up the pace a little bit here as we go through some of these other flags, because those were more of demos on how to read the flags off the website and things like that. Ultra Sleek Season 1. This is pretty much the boilerplate standard that a lot of people are used to. Again, Kefka Tower Skip is just 9 characters or 12 espers. This was before the introduction of the 21 and then 22 check skip in some of the later seasons. The most interesting thing, I think, is that this was before we took Super Balls out of shops and put them at higher prices, and we still have experience eggs and Illuminas in shops too. So it's definitely something to take a look at and remember that these things might be in shops, and if you find Super Balls early, that might change up what your plan is for that particular seed.
That was really the name of the game for early Ultra League seasons, especially. Try to find Super Balls, and if you can, the play is bump your scaling basically as much as you can. Try to get to 6 or 7 characters in espers, and then go Super Ball a dragon or 2, and that's how you jump ahead. So that strategy is timeless, and it will work well for you here as well. But otherwise, yeah, this is Ultras League. I don't really understand Ultras League, but most people have played it, and you'll be very, very familiar with this.
Was this before we added Magitech as a command into the rotation?
It sure was. There's no Magitech in this.
Yeah, because you'll see also there's no Magitech upgrade, and that's something you might see on some flag sets, and that's because we did Magitech the command at first with just the 4 starter spells, and then we figured out how to add the upgrade in a little later on. All right, moving onwards. Edgar's Chainsaw. We talked about this a little bit. This is a barter seed. What that means is that all items cost 2,000 GP, and you need to trade 4 items to get 1 item, essentially. But the shops are 100% random, so you'll find more goodies in there. You won't find Super Balls or rods that we kind of mentioned earlier, but in this particular flag set, the shops are going to be way more valuable than your chests here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with barter seeds, for me anyway, is I spent a lot of time early on the seed searching for shops a little more aggressively. I'm just trying to find those 1 or 2 things that break the seed open. So I'm trying to find the elemental shields or the VKs or the offerings or the Illuminas or something. If you find that shop and it's got those things, then that's your ticket, and then you really just go win the seed from there.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is during the Coliseum, we had this gimmick of if you win a Coliseum match, that's sort of what it was, right?
Gimmick.
Fun.
This subtle, well-implemented theme that drew it all together in a tasteful and incredible and rewarding fashion. A gimmick. I am irate, Schwantz. Continue.
Adjectives aside, right? You get to get a stat boost if you win a Coliseum match. So that is that's the interesting thing here.
Yeah, you go to the Coliseum, you win a match, and you basically Regal Crown was kind of the theme here. So for most of the seeds, the Coliseum reward was worth doing, and this one, that's very true. 10 magic power and 10 vigor and 10 speed. Those are all useful. Also stamina, which great. But otherwise, the other thing I do want to call out on that is we did something fun with the sword tech objectives in that flag set as well. You only get 3 sword techs from doing the Dome of Dream. So the idea here is that you do want to be a little careful what level you're doing Dome of Dream if you're trying to do it to learn sword techs. Because if you go before you've got all the sword techs, you're only going to learn the next 3. So if you want to get sword tech 7, you should be at least level 15, and if you want to get sword tech 8, you need to be at least level 24 before you get that objective. Otherwise, it's a barter seed, and barter accordingly. Just watch out. The scaling is a little tougher in these as well. 2.5 for the levels and the HP, but only 2 for the XP. So the fights can be a little tough. Just be careful because it's not the most forgiving of scalings.
And then one of the other interesting things I want to point out real fast is the Kefka Tower skip is 12 bosses. So one of the strategies during, I think, Coliseum was you would get to sort of a place where if you could finish up through the middle portion of Kefka's Tower at 9... Well, if you got into Kefka's Tower at 9 bosses, you could send your whole party through Party 3, which basically meant you would fight the Inferno spot, the Guardian spot, the Poltergeist spot, and by the time you hit the Poltergeist spot, you were at 12 bosses. So then you could skip back into the tower and fight the other 2 side statues with 2 members of your party and 2 members of your party. So you might see that strategy come back during this week, or at least some of the other weeks where you do have a boss skip or requirement. Remember, there are bosses inside Kefka's Tower you could fight.
It's a great strategy. Use it early, use it often, or just for this 1 week, I suppose. One quick question for you there, Schwantz, as well. How do you feel about setting the Zozo clock? And we're going to talk a little bit more about Zozo clock shortly, but setting the Zozo clock for 8 tools in the high tier item, trap or savvy play? No, not for you. Okay.
No, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to set the clock because you have to talk to all the people and then go and actually set it. It's a little bit of a... If you have Terra or Cyan, it's a little bit more palpable, but I still wouldn't do it in this case.
I'm on the same page, other than I would consider it a little bit more if I had no source of instant death and I was keeping Edgar in my party. That air anchor is kind of nice to have. You'll make some of that time back on tier 1 and tier 2 if you can air anchor tools and short arm, long arm, whichever arm.
All right. Madwin's table. So I guess
this prepare for a long seed.
I guess this was the one where you did not enjoy. 0 out of 10.
Yeah. This is a miserable flag set. It's gonna be a long seed. This is don't sweat it if you're playing this and you're doing a race of this and your time is dragging on. You're like, oh my god, it's 1:45 and I'm just getting into the tower. I'm gonna lose. You know what? Everybody might be in that boat. Basically, your characters are horribly weak in this. Like, they've got no stats. They're gonna gain strength really slowly. You can't get ahead of scaling because scaling is 1 times party highest level. So that means if you've got a party that's got a level 13 guy and 3 other level 10 guys, the bosses are all scaled to level 13, which means that defeat 2 dragons for an experience egg, not so tempting as it sounds. Be a little careful about that because that is a bit of a trap. Of course, the good people at Madwin Table also gave us split party XP. We've talked about that. It's terrible. They gave us the only 2 times and 4 times for XP and gold respectively. So you're going to gain levels very, very slowly. I do believe we had people back then who were running single characters for a bunch of the seed. That's not a terrible idea. Or running just 2 characters, but like, it's tough. This is tough sled in this one. You do start with a Blitz Saban, which is kind of cool. And then you've got a Celeste with Runic. And yeah, it's just a mess. This is the 2 things you can do to help yourself here, I say, are do as many free checks as you can, because they're not going to pump your scaling. So you're just going to get power, because I believe no free character, like no free progression is on here. So the free checks are just free stuff. So you start with 3. Right away, you can go do Celeste, the basement, you can go do the Figaro Throne, and you can go do the Collapsing House. So go ahead, pick those up. Those are good to get out of the way and get yourself some stuff. And this is a seed. Don't tell Boo I'm saying this, but this is a pretty good seed for fixed dice because it's one of the few ways that you can sort of kind of get past your terrible stats and get past some of these limitations of scaling. Fixed dice, just the mechanics of how they work, can sort of bypass that.
Yeah, so remember how we were talking about split party XP with a 7 multiplier and a party of 3 gets to be about 2? So yeah, the party of 3 would get what? 0.33? No, 2/3 XP per fight. So yeah, this is I wouldn't even know where to start with this one. It would be take the Moogle Charm off while you're looting South Figaro basement and grabbing Celeste's reward. Go do as much of the Imperial camp as you can beforehand. Then maybe go to the Phantom Train and take as many ghost fights as you possibly can. So this is going to be a pretty awful one. And it's not even like you can get some sort of relief because the max scaling is 50, which is higher than normal too. I guess going to the Leet River as early as possible to learn those 8 blitzes because that bum rush will come in hugely handy for you. So find Terra, win the seed.
Hey, I mean, spells are only 25 to 75% MP. It's not all bad. That solves everything. Cheap spells, you're good. And as Fiery Blizzard mentions out in chat too, you can abuse the party level highest by just having a party with your junior members, and the bosses will only be that level. So if you've got super balls or something or fixed dice fixed dice won't really work at that level, but if you've got a way to punch well above your weight, you can always manipulate the scaling like that as well. But it's tough to get around. Party highest is tricky.
Yeah, I think some of the times of this particular flag set were 2 to 2.5 hour range. So just as an FYI, it's going to be a longer seed than what you're used to. All right, moving on to oh god, this flag set. This is one of the
bizarre to the sublime.
This is one of the most popular flag sets I think we've ever done for an event, and I don't really understand it because it's fun, but it's not fun to play.
Yeah, I mean, I could never tell if people loved it or just loved to meme about it, but it's back either way. And this is my notes have this the finest flag set ever crafted. Maybe that's hyperbole. Maybe I'm lying. Great people here. Yeah, so I mean, the marquee feature of this one is that the character names and sprites are shuffled. So what that means is that we've taken all the names of people and we've kind of moved them around. So Terra might be in your game as Umaro, and Umaro might actually be Locke. And we took out original name display too, so don't think you can just cheat this. You can find out who's who in a few ways if you do one of those methods that Schwantz helpfully showed us earlier of going into the seed notes. You can go and see who was assigned because it's not randomly assigned when the seed is rolled. It's assigned like before when the flag sets are made. So you can look there. Go ahead and memorize that too, because the thing I can tell you without a word of dishonesty in my heart is that those assignments are going to stay the same from now to the actual event, and they'll be the same for both races in the main event and the memory lane. So don't fact check. Don't feel like you need to double check that when the event starts. Trust me, great people here. They're going to be the same, and I would never lie to you about this. So, like, again, I'm being so honest that you don't need to double check. In fact, I insist that you don't double check when you start the seed.
So
otherwise,
what you would do is you would go here and Terra becomes Sabin. So you'll see Sabin on your screen, but your auto tracker will light up with Terra. And if you go to the track menu in game and you look under checks, it'll list out Terra's checks, right? Even though the sprite is Sabin and the name is Sabin. So it's a bit of a mind game. And one of the things I advise when you're going up to fight Final Kefka, repeat the name of your party several times and use the sprites and not the actual person, right? Because you won't be able to see Sabin parentheses Terra. It'll just say Sabin. And if you don't remember who's who, you're just screwed. So chant the name of your party like you're performing a seance on Final Kefka, because otherwise you are going to forget. So this is sort of how to read that and map that one-to-one. In case you are one of those players that does not use an auto tracker, you would need to write down sort of this conversion and go, okay, every time I get Gao, I know it's actually Locke, right? So the right-hand side is the sprite, and the left-hand side is the actual character you get and whose checks they will be, etc., etc., etc.
Do some practice of this one, and I believe, I don't know if it's live now, but if it is live, Otherwise, it's still in development, but there might be an and Zozo modifier on Seedbot that applies as Zozo Shuffle to any seed. So you can practice this excitement whenever you want. I don't know what kind of degenerate has pushed that into that code, but it's there. Otherwise, that's probably the spookiest thing about this flag set. Normalize and Distort is back here. So between that and ability scaling random, which means that Flame Eater, instead of always using fire, maybe he uses earth today, or maybe he uses Meteo today. So ability scaling random and normalize and distort does make bosses quite a bit spookier than usual. Just expect the bosses to be hard. 1 in 20 chests is a monster instead of a chest content. That's not the most deadly thing, although occasionally you will get jumped by like a bunch of Inox or something. What it really means though is that chests are occasionally just going to eat up 30 seconds of your time, because even just like going into a fight and smoke bombing out, that's 20 or 30 seconds of your life you're not getting back. So I wouldn't say don't let it deter you from opening chests at the beginning to loot, but you want to make sure that you're not looting without intention. Don't just like, if you're doing Mount Zozo late in the game, don't just like grab the convenient chests on the way. You've got to control your inner loot goblin. Otherwise, the skip is a little random. You've got to find one named character, and so we've talked about why that's going to be a little more complicated in this. And to unlock Final Kefka, you need 7 characters, 9 espers, and you've got to set the damn clock. What is it with the Zozo clock? Now, Schwantz, do you know anybody who's made a video about the Zozo clock? Because
I might know a guy. So yeah, if you are unaware of how to set the randomized Zozo clock, there is a video on our YouTube channel that I've sort of made to go through the process of how to do that. It's not difficult. It's just you will need probably either pen and paper, or you will need to have a notepad or Google Doc open with the names of the times that it can be, and just scratch them off. The one thing I do want to mention about the chests being monster in a boxes, they are not bosses. They'll be random encounters. Yeah. And I actually think that this is a great way to grind without grinding. You don't have to take the Moogle Charm off during your normal looting route. If you open up, 40 chests, right? Then by my math, 2 of those chests will probably be fights. 2, 3, 4 if you're really, really unlucky, right? So you'll get your grind fights in. However, you have to remember, before you go loot in a town, make sure you save, so this way you don't lose all of your looting progress from the beginning of the game. I know most of us, we don't actually save until we are ready to do our first check. That is not something you should do with Zozo if you're going around looking for treasure.
Yeah. Again, it's the triple Inox that are going to get you, and they're going to get you at the worst possible time.
All right, so going from difficult to woof. I started playing one of these seeds last night, and I got absolutely bodied. And I was like, oh my god, we have 500,000 GP. I can go buy super balls in a shop. I can go buy rods in a shop. This is great. This is going to be the easiest seed ever. And I ran up the scaling, because it's 3 times characters, espers, and dragons. But all the way on the right-hand side there is what I neglected to read. Your enemy levels are plus 10 right off the start. So even with doing absolutely nothing, right, you have 3 times 3 characters, which is 9, and then you add 10 to that, and that's level 19 bosses. So even at a level 19 boss, a super ball is going to be nothing. They're just going to shrug it off. So you have to be very careful with this particular flag set of running up the scaling too high, even if you have goodies and even if you know what your party is going to do. Though that plus 10 levels is going to get you at the start of the seed. It's ridiculous.
It's a huge part of why people will talk about KGP week 6. I mean, that's really the root cause of it. KGP week 6 was terrible because it was so hard to break into the seed, and you've just explained the massive wall at the start of the seed. You've got all these barriers there. Once again, you've got split party XP. We've talked ad nauseum about that, so you know exactly why it's going to be difficult to sort of get up and running early here. Everything is stacked against you. You've got all the money in the world, but you're not going to get any more money than that. That's your 0 times gold from here on out. So make that 500,000 work. However, chests and shops are excellent in this flag set. 100% random is usually very favorable for the players. So, feel free to loot a little bit more than you usually would, or based on Schwanz's comments, maybe a lot of bit more than you usually would. Feel free to check a couple extra shops. This is one where your opening route might be like Narsh, South Figaro, and then Albrook, and then Thamasa, and then the other South Figaro. Like, you can indulge yourself a little bit on this one, I would say. The Colosseum also, I don't know. I don't love the Colosseum, but there's cheap Ultima, abused cheap Ultima. Lore and Rage users are like capital E excellent in this flag set. Because you have all the lores and the rages and the dances. So lore users, if you've got a lore user and they've got decent magic, cool. You're going to be grand training your way to victory. If you've got a rage user, you're looking for Prussian and Lurdan for single target, you're looking for Retainer for multi-target, and you're looking for Stray Cat if they're a physical fighter. You don't really have to think about any other rage options beyond that, because honestly, you've got the very best ones. So like, just save your brain cells, remember those 4, and like, go.
Yeah, so just also take a look at what Final Kefka entails, right? It entails 7 characters, 10 espers, and 5 dragons. So that's 22 pieces of progression. We multiply that by 3, right? And we get level 66. So things inside of Kefka's Tower are going to be level 66 against your party that's now split up. So 66 is definitely the highest level bosses I've ever fought. I think 50 is usually the maximum scaling of some of the quote-unquote harder flag sets, but they're going to be level 66. So just keep that in mind when you're going into Kefka's Tower.
Yeah, this is probably one flag set where you might consider doing like full party dives on like multiple lanes. Don't feel ashamed, don't feel guilty. Just send the whole team down there to go fight these statues, and better safe than wiped a million times.
Yeah. I threw a half an hour at a seed last night and I said, nope, I'm done.
Yep.
even with the experience multiplier at 10 and split party XP, so you're technically getting slightly more experience with a party of 3, right? Because it's 10 divided by 3 is a little bit higher than 3. You still need to catch up a lot of levels in order to get to the baseline of where the enemies are going to be at in this one.
Yeah. Tough to get into these seeds, and then tough to end them. This one, not so tough though.
Yeah, this one was another fan favorite for runners during the Warring Triads event, Doom's Rage, and I think it's because of the way that the flag set was crafted around great physical damage and physical builds here. So you want to sort of go over some of the things that highlight that as a way to lean into this one.
Yeah, I mean, this one's find big stick, use big stick. You've got a bunch of vigor at the start, and you're going to get high tier weapons for most of your dead checks, other than the ones that give you ice shields and mega elixirs. So this was one, I think a lot of the races, we saw a lot of uses of like Illuminas and Ragnaroks and things like that. It's a great Illumina and Ragnarok seed. VKs and Atmas, a good seed for sword tech and throw as well. So remember, sword tech is entirely based on vigor for the good sword techs, and physical throws are also like very good with high vigor, and you've got 20 to start off in this. So those are really useful here. Just bear in mind, your bosses are a little tougher at the start. Your dragons are a little tougher. Your KT skip is variable from seed roll to seed roll. However, when you boot up the seed, you will see what the requirement is before you start the seed. So that's a good option. Remember, you're not cheating. As long as you don't hit the new game button, it's okay. You can open up the ROM, just don't start play. So feel free to take a look, see what the skip is, so that you can sort of plan accordingly. Because if it's really high, if it's like a 9 character skip or like 25 checks or something, you probably are not going to be chasing that. So just something to keep in mind. Otherwise, I mean, you've got tougher than usual scaling, but not burdensome like some of the other flag sets we've looked at. The dragon objectives are nice. It's a big investment to do 5 dragons, but auto haste is really a nice little damage boost, and auto image is a calmness protection as well as just a massive physical damage boost in terms of physical defense boost. So really nice. And auto reflect is really handy. I mean, well, it makes healing a little bit more of a pain. Things like Pearl Wind and stuff like that still work, and it's awfully nice when you run into something like a Doom Gaze or a Magi Master, and you can not worry about some of the crap they're going to throw at you. So basically just try to find some big sticks and wail on bad guys with them.
Yeah, so the statues, as with all Warring Trads, flag sets, are also shuffled, so you kind of know what you're getting into inside of Kefka's Tower. And the magic nerf is not only with the magic power, with the MP that you're going to gain from fights, it's also we've removed a bunch of the spells that would normally are the weaknesses to a lot of the bosses in the game, right? A lot of the mechanical bosses are weak to bolt spells, and a lot of the other bosses are weak to fire spells. There's less bosses that are weak to ice spells than either one of those two. So it's a huge nerf to magic in this particular seed.
Yeah, bosses like Tritalk are really, really fun to fight in this. Another thing with this one too is that if you get this is one where you might want to just consider murder as your way to heal the frozen condition, because you can't thaw them through many other means. So yeah, there is that. However, I believe Rage can still use these things. If you find a senior Rage or something, you can still, I think the senior Behemoth Fire 3.
Yes.
Yeah, I think senior Behemoth. And like Mover or
can't
Daedalus from Merton.
Yeah, you can't learn them from Espers, but you can use them from Rage.
Yeah, or like breaking shields or things like that. So just something to bear in mind, that like if you do find some ways to use fire, like rods or shields or whatever, treasure them. They are sacred objects in this one.
All right, and then the final flag set. I won't have to play this one probably, so
Same.
So let's talk about this particular one here. I think this is another very difficult flag set, taking a look at what this one entails too.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's tough for like subtle reasons. And I mean, I didn't even get to play this one the first time because I didn't know what I was doing then, and I still don't now. So the semifinals, for whatever reason, they're actually probably a harder flag set than the finals from the Battle Royale 2022. You've got a lot of the greatest hits we've seen already. Normalize and Distort is back, so the bosses are going to hit harder, and your HP thresholds are fouled up in terms of like when people are in Medio phase or Goner phase or things like that. So just play safe with your bosses. Most of the free checks here have a penalty. Well, I say free, but like most of like the checks or things you usually would do to get levels or an advantage are going to give you a penalty. Like Zen Thief gives you boss levels. Winning an auction, which was very popular in the meta back then, gives you final boss levels. Defeating dragons just makes dragons tougher. So you want to be a little more conscious of that. And don't forget that you're starting with 10 boss levels right at the hop. Schwann's talked about that in KGP. 10 extra levels to bosses at the beginning means that like right away with 2.5 scaling, your 3 random characters to start, your bosses are level 17, level 18 with like random fluctuation. You might be fighting level 20 bosses right at the beginning. So you do want to be aware of that. There's a couple other bonus objectives here. The Illumina objective, to be frank, it's asking a lot of you to do 3 of those not great checks to get an Illumina. If you do start with Lock, you could maybe consider it, like maybe do Phoenix Cave to open and then keep your eye out for good opportunities to do the other 2, but it is asking a lot. However, Illumina is a pretty good weapon, so it's tempting. It's tough scaling in this one, 2.5 per like levels, but only 2 for the XP. So again, you're going to be on your back foot. I would say don't be afraid of, again, grinding a little bit. Just try to stay ahead of scaling. That's really going to help you here. You do have a set Zozo clock. I know we've spoken lovingly about the Zozo clock. However, in this one, if you are struggling to find offensive options, that Dragoon set is kind of tempting, especially if you find Lock or a natural jumper. If you find somebody like that, the Dragoon set becomes very attractive in that you could maybe get somebody going with the full Dragoon set and the Dragon Horn that makes them a quad jumper. Yeah, I would probably say do one dragon that bumps the levels. If you're really strong, the second dragon becomes more efficient. But yeah, this is probably, I would say, other than maybe KGP, in fact, KGP probably edges it out, but it's very close to being the hardest quote-unquote normal flag set in the event because of all these just little subtle issues that combine with normalized and distort and scaling and crappy shops and things like that.
Yeah, I am pretty happy that you are subjecting all of us to the ridiculousness that is KGP, because like I said, I jokingly said it, but I don't know if a lot of us will make it to this week. I think based on how many people are supposed to be in this particular race, it's what, 4 or 8 for this week?
4, I think, is the last week. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so I do appreciate that we are going to play the KGP one, but I'm also glad that I probably won't have to do this one too.
Yeah, we're dodging a bullet, us scrubs.
Oh, for sure. All right, so I think what we're going to do now is we will set up a race. I think we got a couple of people off stream that are ready to run. I'm just looking for the logo for this, and I can't find it. Where the heck did I download it? But anyway, so what we'll do now is we'll go into race mode here. So we'll turn off the slideshow, and we've got two contenders, Keith McRocks and Drinks Glue, and they have decided on Edgar's Chainsaw as the flag set. So I'm going to set up their stream, and you want to talk a little bit about Edgar's Chainsaw here while I do that?
Yeah, sure. So Edgar's Chainsaw, we did talk a bit about it, but this is what we call in the industry a barter seed. So our players are not going to have the normal exchange of gold for goods. This is a trader's world, like pirate days in the golden age of sail. So basically shops are 100% random, which means shops are very nice. However, everything costs exactly 2,000 gold. It doesn't cost 1999 gold. It doesn't cost 2001 gold. It costs exactly 2,000 gold. Unless you're in South Figaro with Edgar, then it costs 1,000. But that's beside the point. The important thing is that everything costs 2,000 gold and everything sells for 500 gold. So basically, you can think of it this way, that any 4 items can be traded in for any 1 item at a shop. So you're going to start with 3,000 gold. Already have an item and a half that you can buy. So you can get an Illumina and then half of another Illumina, which is, almost 2 Illuminas. If you round up, that's 2 Illuminas. So barter seeds are interesting in that you just basically want to find really good shops and sell all the junky tonics and things you have and buy things like Illuminas or VKs or offerings, stuff like that. This is a Colosseum flag set, so the scaling is 2.5 times for characters, Espers, and Dragons, but only 2 times for the XP. So you are going to be... It's a little bit tougher than something like Ultras League, which is just 2 and 2. You do need to be a little bit more aware of that, and just be aware that you're going to feel a little bit more behind scaling than you usually do. It's not something you need to really overhaul your strategy for, just something to be aware of, that it's not quite as forgiving or cozy as Ultras League can be. There's no ultimate to be found here. That's fine. You're going to start with Edgar with tools. All the Colosseum flag sets named after with their vanilla abilities. So you've got a tools using Edgar, which is usually a decent thing, especially if you have something like Flash or Drill, then you've got some good stuff. I love to start with a Flash Edgar. Edgar, really good equipment permissions, things like that. So usually I would suggest just leaving Edgar in your party. And again, you've got that discount. Go abuse the South Figaro discount. You want to probably very early on here, you're going to be going to somewhere like South Figaro, World of Ruin, or more importantly, the Figaro Castle. Our runners have a few objectives that are kicking around. So right at the start of this flag set, they're going to get 5 vigor and 5 magic power. They don't have to do anything to earn that. Their presence earns that. Just because they're wonderful people, we give them 5 vigor and 5 magic power. They can earn more though. So this is the Colosseum too, which means that any player who goes to the Colosseum and wins any Colosseum bout, I don't care if they've won an elixir, I don't care if they've won a tonic, I don't care if they've won an Illumina. If they win a Colosseum match, they get all their characters gaining 10 magic power, 10 speed, 10 stamina for whatever that's worth, and 10 vigor. So it's like having a free regal crown and a half on everybody. Everybody just gets enhanced. It's good for everybody. So you probably want to go to the Colosseum, find something you can win, and just win it. If you do the Dome of Dream, you'll learn 3 sword techs. So if you found a sword tech user later on in the seed, you can go finish off Dome of Dream. You should anyway. It's a great check. And setting the Zozo clock will get you 8 tools and a high tier item. Could be an Illumina. It's probably an Illumina, unless you actually go do the clock, in which case it's probably just going to end up being a red cap. But boy, it could be an Illumina, so you should probably go set that clock. Let's go do it now. Otherwise, it's very similar. There's no super balls, no rods here, so don't worry about those kind of things. Otherwise, not a lot to talk about. It's a barter seed, so if you haven't seen a barter seed, take some notes here, because it's definitely a different experience than a normal seed. And as we mentioned before too, the skips in the Coliseum, including this one, were 12 bosses. So once you've fought 12 bosses, you have a skip available. And again, the strategy we used to see, and I assume we one, if not both of our racers today, is that you just run your full party, all 4 of them, up the right side to fight the Inferno boss slot, as well as the Guardian boss slot, as well as Poltergeist. That's 3 bosses right there. If you've fought 9 already, then 9 plus 3, carry the 1. That's 12, and that gives you skips. You warp out and then put your 2 and 2 parties on the sides, and they can just fight those bosses. So it really mitigates a lot of the risk of something like running into Goddess with only 1 person, or running into Tentacles with only 1 character, God forbid. So,
you know what's interesting is that we do have some royalty here in the race tonight, and we're not talking about Drinks Glue, who did actually win the most recent event we had. It is actually Keith McRocks who won the title of Chupon's Pal in the Coliseum 2 event itself. So I think that's kind of a cool throwback that we've got Keith stepping in to run the race tonight, and he was the winner of the Chupon's Pal award, who won after being eliminated from one of the earlier rounds, which is kind of a cool and interesting thing.
It's a very cool thing. Yeah, the Chupon's Pit was the kind of the consolation bracket if you got knocked out of the main double elim tournament, but it was no less vicious, no less hard fight. Did earn the dubious honor of being Chupon's best pal. So I think this was after COVID, and we know about sneezing and the dangers of it. So I don't know if I would really recommend spending a lot of good quality time with Chupon, but
no.
Keith has and does. So kudos.
Yeah, so I'll be interested.
Keith on a job done.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see sort of how this one plays out. I think that we're going to get some interesting options here. I'm going to see some more looking at shops versus looking at loot. We have access to Edgar's free check right away, correct? However, as we mentioned, there are no free... it's no free progression, is that correct?
It might be. I actually don't know if these were no free progression.
Oh no, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry. There were some sets that were, but it doesn't look like there is, as this is the flags that we've got here, right? So
yeah.
But we do know that we have Edgar, so that kind of affects how we route the game. Usually, when I have Edgar, I like to do Figaro Castle first for half-price shops, and then World of Ruin South Figaro for the half-price shops. Those are my first 2 usual stops, and we'll see if either of our runners decide to do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely try to do those early. I'm interested in that when I have an Edgar start, I actually tend to try returners or Nourish first. I want to get buying power. I always like to make sure that I'm doing a couple, make sure I get some gold so I can make full use of the Edgar discount. Because like the thing I hate the most is finding the cheap stuff for Edgar and not having enough buying power to afford it. So I do like to get some sellable stuff. However, in this, all bets are off. Remember though that every 4 chests you open is 1 thing you can buy at a store, unless it's an empty chest, in which case it's not.
And there are some GP chests still, so.
Yeah, there are. The other downside of barter is normally a great command throw, not so great in a barter seed.
No, definitely not. Because remember, we have to, we've got to buy each and every single item. And we'd like to sell those terrible weapons instead of keeping them in our pocket to throw them. So we do have Setzer and Gogo to accompany our Edgar. Unfortunately, I think Setzer had Morph, which is not going to be very helpful for us early on here.
No, not great. And it doesn't really help Gogo either because he can't use the ability. However, Gogo is nice in a barter seed as well, because again, if you find a store that has shields or rods or things like that, nobody's better at getting maximum value squeezed out of consumable items like Gogo.
All right, so both of our runners decided to head into the returners. I'm sorry, the Norsh area here first. Which
the other returners hideout.
Yeah, the other returners hideout, which is, like I mentioned, I would probably gravitate towards the stuff with Edgar. So if you have Edgar in the front of your party, even in a barter seed, you still get half off of things, right? So instead of the things costing 2,000 or 2,500, I forget what they cost in this seed, they'll be half of that. So
yeah, 2,000 things only sell for a quarter, but right there we're seeing some Minervas. We see Drinks Glue, and like he's selling things like his Magicite and his Fire Knuckle for 500, enough to get himself a Minerva. I think, was there a Cat Hood there as well? That would have been very tempting.
Yes.
And Cat Hood, I mean, now bear in mind, and the gold, yeah, so he can wear it, which Cat Hood, what's the old saying? You can't afford not to buy a Cat Hood. Even in a barter seed, I think that applies, even though there's only a 1x modifier. We're seeing cheap economizers. Well, cheap. We're seeing barter economizers there. There was a chainsaw in the chest in the treasure room as well. So we do have a little bit of offense to start off.
Yeah, that's one of the things you're always worried about is what tool did I start with, and can I find a drill or chainsaw really? Keith's showing us that, hey, we're going to do some extra looting here in this particular seed, because unlike some, I think, more standard barter seeds that I've seen rolled, especially with DraftBot, where you do a 2-for-1 item swap, this is a 4-for-1 item swap. Normally that cursed ring would be something I'd always buy, but at 2,000 GP, it's actually more expensive than it is normally. And earrings are going to be tougher to come by, too.
Yeah, and I mean, we do see them for sale in gold, but it's always frustrating. So we saw Drinks opened up some tasty stuff like a ribbon, and usually I'm salivating when I see a ribbon, both because I have highly active salivary glands, and because a ribbon sells for so much. But right there, we've seen the power of this flag set where Ragnarok for sale for 2,000 gold, and he's already picked up a Genji glove in a chest. So Drinks Glue has already got some of the answers to the seed opening up before him, just for going to the inferior of the two South Figaros.
Yeah, that's really wild that we've already found some crazy stuff here. We do also have Setzer's free check that we can go take a look at here. Now, I wonder if the increased scaling is on the mind of the runners to not do so much free stuff that it sort of starts to get out of hand here.
Yeah, I mean, it is that easy to fall behind. That said, especially for Drinks Glue, who's already found some good, powerful stuff, and because he's found a lot of it on a pretty common route, I would assume Keith will as well, but that might tempt them to push scaling a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to resist that kind of temptation.
Yeah, unfortunately, physical offenses tend to not ramp up until later on a little bit, right? Even an Illumina or a Ragnarok early game is going to do less damage than GP Rain to a single target, of all things, right? So you got to be careful where you sort of pick your battles here. And we do see Mega Elixir for sale in the Returner's hideout. For me, there's an Illumina. So
there it is.
How you doing?
There they are.
Half price Illuminas.
Half price. Yeah, that's the dream, right? To find the half price Illumina. However, the sad part of the dream is that for without any doubt that every single other person in this race, which this is a 2-person race, but if you find a half price Illumina in South Figaro starts with Edgar, every single other racer has that Illumina. So don't think you've got a time advantage. You've just you've solved some of your problems, but you haven't got a leg up on anybody, that's for sure.
In barter seeds, I also tend to shy away more from the item shops, as we do see that first Magicite go on the board there for Keith. Because really the only items that you'll need are Phoenix Downs, Warp Stones, Revivifies, and Remedies, and then Tents, I guess, right? So those are the 5 you're sort of looking for in item shops. So they definitely make them a lot less valuable versus a weapon shop or a relic shop or even an armor shop in this case. So
yeah, you really have to break your habits of buying a whole bunch of sleeping bags or buying echo screens and things like that. You want a couple remedies. The remedy spell is kind of nice in these flag sets to save some cash, but yeah, the item shops become a lot less interesting in these. However, I think the armor shops become a little more interesting. Usually I skip armor shops, but because of the presence of cheap shields, I think armor shops are a little more attractive.
Drinks Glue pulling a dragon horn out of a chest there, so that's part of a Dragoon build for Edgar. And if we pull these flags back up again really quickly, We don't get a objective for a Dragoon in this particular flag set. I thought we did. That must have been one of the other ones that we went over. So disregard what I was going to say about that. But with Edgar and a Dragon Horn, that is usually a good recipe. Or even Setzer with a Dragon Horn, because you know he can use a fixed dice for maximum jumpage as well.
I was going to say the exact same thing, so I'm glad that the same thinking there was. I think that's Battle Royale 2022, which I think the theme of getting the Dragoon set there was that Boo, who made the flag set, loves Dragoons, and therefore you get a Dragoon set from, which can't blame him.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, if you need a build, a Dragoon set is an endgame build most of the time.
Yeah, especially when we're seeing Edgar, who can use he can always use all the great items that can really capitalize on a Dragoon build. So yeah, it's a nice little way to answer the questions if you don't have any other answers making themselves apparent.
Yeah, so what's interesting here is it looks like we're gonna go full send on Edgar here with that 2 Illumina, cat hood, red jacket. Okay. I guess it appears that Setzer can use the Illumina too. So why not? Let's throw it on him as well. Part of the problem with having some of these big swords early on, though, is that you don't have any MP yet to use for critical hits. So he's gonna have to balance out how to find those critical that MP to cast. And where's Glue going? I can't see on this mini map. Double down.
Schwanz, I don't want to hear it. I will take none of that guff from you, sir. I think my discerning eyes have detected he's gone to Kolingen. He's found an old man there, so he's picked up a Strago, which we were talking about finding answers to the seed. I don't think that's one of them, but it's another body, and they're always nice to have, and it opens up some wonderful checks like the Burning House.
I did not see what his ability was. That could certainly help out. Yeah, I mean, Burning House is one of those checks where it's a rather lengthy one, but there are those grind fights in there if Drinks Glue is worried about being behind scaling one trip into the Burning House, and hopefully you can get some decent fights in there to fight. And it looks like we got a vanilla lore Strago who can use the Illumina, so we're going to get a swinging old man in this seed here, Double Down.
Yeah, I think a lot of the written commands on characters in this seed are Illumina. I don't think we care too much about the abilities. The moment you find Illuminas for sale for 1,000 gold in South Fig, I don't know that the plan really needs to be more complicated than that. I think, keep it simple, stupid. Especially so with Setzer too with Morph. That's awfully nice in the fray, kind of swinging magic swords around.
Yeah, so in this flag set, remember, we do get a Kefka Tower skip at 12 bosses. So I wonder if that will discourage some of our runners from fighting some dragons here.
Yeah, they might avoid dragons, although it does make some checks like Tritalk a little more attractive as well. We're also seeing a lot of red caps. I think we've seen 2 or 3 red caps found in chests now, which really do play into the swinging big sticks plan. So this is it's all coming together. This could be a pretty fast one for our runners because they've got some very, very quick, very efficient whole day offense going on.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing here that even at low levels, that those Illuminas, they're not really doing very much damage. The Pearl Proc doing way more damage there for Drinks Glue. So with a physical heavy offensive party like this, yeah, Illuminas are great, but it's going to take a little bit to get them online against these enemies here.
Always very frustrating too early in the seed before you found any Esper. Just do not have an MP stat line and therefore can't crit.
Alright, Vanilla Lobo is in the Monster in a Box chest here. I believe Glue is probably fishing for a Gigantos, because with the Illuminas and the Ragnaroks, we do not need an offering. Although, Katana Soul does drop a boatload of money, and we've got a cat hood, right? So that could be another reason to hunt for Katana Soul, is because of the money and not for the offering.
Yeah, because there really is nothing. I mean, once you found those Illuminas, yeah, I mean, unless you found a VK for sale, I don't think you care about offerings. You see Keith continuing his quest to go as far off the beaten path as possible, looting that awful chest above the stable in South Figaro. Hats off to him.
Yeah, even when I play multi-world and treasure shuffle, I don't get that chest out of spite. But we do see there's the Illumina's there for Keith, so he's got the goods as well. And now we're just gonna get some levels, and we'll see where the seed takes us.
I wonder too if Drinks Glue was looking for Katana Soul, maybe not so much for what he, but because he knew that he has a Noise Blaster and therefore had a quick way of dealing with it if he did find it.
Yeah. So
these sea flowers are not dying very fast.
Yeah, so this is just a product of the higher scaling on these particular enemies here.
Yeah, and if it's bad for these guys, it's gonna be worse for bosses because I believe. Oh, I have to open up the infographic again, but I believe we're looking at. Nope, we're not. I'm lying to you. Don't worry about it. I was gonna say plus 10 to boss levels, but that's one of the other 8 infographics we looked at.
Yeah, they're gonna be level 10 based on what Drinks Glue has now with the 4 pieces of progression. So
yeah,
when you talk about a bunch of different flag sets, they just run together.
They sure do. This is the Kefka's Grand Coliseum semifinal. Zozo Battleground Rage, I believe, is what this one was.
Yeah. There were a couple of flag sets that I definitely enjoyed seeing as part of the event. I understand the love for Zozo, but I really liked the Triangle Island flag set from Battlegrounds, the one that gave you buffs based on what character you found. I thought that was a really cool one too.
I was really excited about the theme of that one. It was tough to come up with a theme that sort of emulated Go-Go, and I liked Go-Go and Umaro, the Umaro's Club, or Club Umaro as it ended up getting called. I think were the two where their Coliseum rewards, for the other 12 characters, the Coliseum reward was like just a slam dunk. You always take it. Those two, I think, Go-Go's was Auto Reflect, I believe. Umaro's was Auto Berserk, which was a lot of fun.
All right, Coliseum play. We got fixed ice for that Dragon Horn and a Thunder Shield here. I think with Setzer being able to use the Illumina, I'm not sure the fixed ice is the right play to go with here.
No, especially with no offering in the offering. I think I think really you don't really care too much what you're finding. What I'm surprised is that he's going back for more now because I don't know that you need fixed dice when you're walking around with all the stuff that you could ever need. Snow Muffler's not too bad.
So in this case, with the plus 10 to a bunch of different stats, are you always doing the Coliseum fight in the Edgar case?
Yeah, I'm always doing one. I don't think I'm going to do multiple because I'm not a big fan. Like right now, we're seeing here, we're spending a lot of time getting things like Snow Mufflers. Are we convinced that we're going to get that time back later in the seed? I'm not sold on it. But will we get time back from getting plus 10 Vigor and plus 10 Magic with parties that are wielding Illuminas and Ragnaroks? Yeah, we're going to get that time back. That's going to save us some actions throughout the seed, I would say.
So Drinks Glue saving some money here, crashing at the Figaro Castle here. Edgar said, "Hey boys, come for a sleepover." Not very often you get to see players using inns in Worlds Collide, but in a barter seed, you got to save your tents as much as you humanly possibly can. So, hats off to Drinks Glue for an innovative way to keep his party healed up there.
Yeah, a lot more stylish than going and drinking from the bucket in Narsh. I like that.
Yeah, my favorite is taking a snooze in Returner's hideout. You just walk by and you're like, "Hey guys, don't mind if I do."
Oh, I always used to accidentally walk through the bed in the weapon shop in Narsh when I was doing the lock there, and that's a sleep of shame,
So that Strago, after the Coliseum fight, 57 magic power with natural magic. So he's going to be a monster even without that Illumina.
Yeah, it really can't be understated. The little plus 10 bonuses is not a small thing at all. Like plus 7 magic power is what you get from some of the good items. Getting 10 just from trading a little bit of your time to kill a Ceratops or a Lunaris or something is an easy trade, especially for these guys where they've also found these physical weapons and they're going to get double value, triple value even, because they're going to get value from the Vigor and value from Speed. Speed very, very nice when you're just doing whole day strats.
Alright, so both of our runners have seen both of their free checks. Now we're going to see Drinks Glue going into his first real fight here in Daryl's Tomb. He did some grinding, so he's caught up a little bit on the level front. Maybe he's thinking, hey, this is a check with a monster in a box in it. Let's go peek that monster in a box to see if we can get our free money with Katana Soul here. And we also have Edgar's Ancient Castle check that's got a couple of monster in a boxes open to us as well.
Yeah, it's got a couple of monsters in boxes. It's also got the pain of doing one of the less glamorous checks in Worlds Collide. Now, bouncing back to what we were talking about a little earlier, I think we talked about it at the top of the stream, but we were talking about flag sets you were looking forward to the most. What would it be for you, Schwantz, in this event that you're looking forward to the most of our 9 flag sets, and why is it KGP?
Oh, it's definitely KGP. I tend to do better on weirder or more difficult flag sets, I've noticed. This season, unfortunately, Ultra Sleek Mega Elixir was not my season. The one time I actually did well was because the seed was sort of difficult in terms of like planning out what the best route was. So I tend to, I think, do better with the more difficult seeds, and it'll be interesting to pair up different strategies here. Experience Egg for Keith McRocks is what he finds here in the shop there. I'm actually looking forward to, but also dreading the Mattering Table seed. I have not played one of them, but even just looking at it, it just looks like, how can I solve this problem? And I think it's just going to be cry in the corner is the answer.
I think that's a very valid strategy. I don't think you'll be alone in using that strat.
Alright, so Drinks Glue is going to go for the gem box here. I think part of it might be because he's looking at that boss skip count and says, hey, here's a boss that will give me some levels, and I don't increase my scaling here. And this is Ultros 3, so this is not going to be a problem for my team either. Maybe if this was a more difficult boss, we'd see a reset.
100%. I think you go ahead, you fight the boss, and if you see a Magi Master staring at you, well, good news, you know where he is, and you're not going to kill him now. It's time to leave. But something like Ultros, very quick to take down, and he very wisely does, and receives his also valuable gem box. Worth a massive 500 gold at any shop of his choosing.
Alright, so we did get Siren as the Esper there. I didn't notice that was the one that we had gotten earlier. So, very good for our final Kefka composition. Really, you need something to mute magic, and Siren is that something. And hey, Ultros back again. Not enough money for the 1 GP in. Oh no. Oh, broke Keith is broke.
Yeah, that's
oh man,
that's not
that
good
only
for his
ever happens
budgeting.
in a barter seed.
Yeah. Well, save that one for the highlight reel.
All right, so that was a quick, easy Ultros one for another shiny stone there for Drinks Glue, and it looks like he's heading into Edgar's checks. Meanwhile, Keith getting the Strago checks, so I think he's on the bandwagon of, well, I'm still level 3. Let's go get some levels, and ooh, this might get bad real fast.
A kind of annoying grind fight. I think this actually is not a bad noise blaster fight, but I think you can spook the warp puck. I know this is actually a fight too. If you ever get control, this is a really good control fight. You can control and exploder the warp puck into the Ogre, which makes fairly short work of this fight. You can tell I've encountered this fight in a similar check in a similar situation and had to figure out a way through.
Can you sneeze the warp puck away from itself?
I can't remember if you can sneeze them. I know there's glitches related to control sneeze as well, so I'm always nervous to use sneeze.
You don't want to have some scrambly sprites on your game here.
No, I can't remember. I've seen clips of it very recently, the sneeze glitches, but I think like characters get sneezed, but then they can still act, and yeah, I mean, probably the only glitch in this game, fortunately. So.
All right, so we did see a ghost sprite, I believe, on Drinks Glue's side. So this is not a character yet here, and oh no.
Oh
boy.
This is truly a burning house, isn't it?
Yeah, so do you think about resetting out of this check now that you know that is one of the 2 mobs that you're going to encounter in here?
I'm thinking very closely about it because I certainly can't afford using warp stones on this, and I'm much too scared to be holding LR. The other problem is that even these Warp Pucks and Ogors, if they start getting some Zombites off, you also are going to run out of money very quickly using Revivify. So this could be a situation where by the time you get to the end boss in the Burning House, you've only got 2 characters that you can use because the other 2 are zombies. So yeah, this Burning House is it's a peak Burning House.
That's why we call it the Casa del Fuego here. As Drinks Glue just one-shots Tunnel Armor. Thank you very much. And
easy game, easy life. Give me my second gem box, please.
Oh God, back when the rewards for checks were awful.
Yeah, good old days.
All right, so that was an Esper at least. No more gem box or Marvel shoes. Oh, we do have smoke bombs. Okay. So if this was the just singular level 50 magic, I don't think it would be that bad because that is the one level magic that is undead. You could just revivify or Phoenix down and get out of there. But the level 70s don't allow you to do that.
And in this barter economy, who can afford Revivifies and Phoenix Downs to use on level 50 magics?
Oh, there goes.
Looks like he's using a Phoenix Down either way.
So he's got 7 of them. That's not too terrible. I wonder what he's got in terms of healing. Not much there. Oh,
yeah,
X-Potions. I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
Yeah, and we've got Mega Elixirs floating around too, which you can use in combat. I don't know if have we seen the lore list yet? I'm not sure if he has like Pearlwind or Big Guard kicking around as well.
It was not very good when Drinks Glue went through very briefly. And oh my God.
Oh, jeez.
Not the fight you want to see with Illuminas either.
No, I think this is where you know what? You do the pep up and you just get yourself out of this fight. Just save Goddess the trouble. Oof. Yeah, Noise Blaster's not going to help here. Ooh, that's a tough boss to fight. Especially with Illuminas.
Come on, Setzer, stop it. Goddess now has plus 400 HP after one turn.
Yeah, she's going to come out of this fight with more HP than she started. That's, you don't really love to see it. Oof. Oh, she's doing a lot of damage too. Schwantz, I don't like this at all.
No, this is no bueno. Alright, and Ancient Castle is not a character either. So, Keith might be on the right track here, but he might be on the wrong platform. I don't know. Is that a good enough metaphor?
I love it. I tell you what, I love it very much as we're finding... So some good Espers. We've got Ice 3 Light Berserk kicking around with some Drinks Glue Espers. So he's got some answers to future questions. The one thing I'm surprised, I don't think either of our runners have peeked their heads into the Fanatics Tower. That's a check I like to at least get some information on nice and early, especially when I've got Strago in the family from the start. How do you feel about Fanatics Tower, notwithstanding the getting your steps in?
With the Espers that we found, it's definitely more palpable. With this offense that we have, definitely not as palpable because we're very much a fight-heavy team right now, and we cannot use fight inside of Fanatics Tower. But I think it's better in certain flag sets and worse than others. And in this one, where the amount of checks doesn't matter, it's just the amount of bosses, I think it's less favorable. In other flag sets where you need checks for, let's say, a skip or to unlock something else, then it becomes more favorable because there are 3 checks in that one spot.
Yeah, completely agree. It's nice to know exactly where you're getting up front. Oh, they're all proccing. I mean, Setzer and Edgar both insist on proccing, and their procs are... The other option Drinks Glue does have, if he does find himself needing to go to the Fanatics Tower, it's annoying because it misses a lot, but he could cast Berserk on some of his big sword fellows.
Remember when we were throwing shade at Keith about, hey, you probably shouldn't be in the Coliseum anymore? Those Thunder Shields that he got are really paying off in this fight here.
Yeah, he had foresight, that's what it was.
Unfortunately, now he has love tokens, and the only thing he can do is Chainsaw, because Chainsaw is not the fight command, so it won't be affected by love token.
Yeah, if that Chainsaw would just stop going into instant kill mode, he might actually use it. But Edgar just keeps on trying to get that one shot.
Yeah, at this point, I think I go and get Gogo up, because at least Gogo can offer you another, like a mimic of the Chainsaw.
Yeah, great call. Yeah, I mean,
we
his
got
stats won't be that good,
to
but
go time. Here we go.
And let's not forget, they all have plus 10 vigor, so even sad Gogo's Chainsaw will be doing decent damage as Edgar once again tries to go Freddy Krueger and fails miserably. No, sorry, that's Jason, not Freddy Krueger. I apologize to all the horror fans.
All right, so we're done with Edgar checks. We're done with Setzer checks. So we just have Gogo and Strago checks left to give us our characters. So where do we think we're going to find it? And Gogo is up for this XP that Keith gets through the goddess fight finally. Beautiful. After thousands and thousands of procs. That fight would have went several minutes faster if he was a little bit more
just
lucky.
A classic smooth Burning House experience as Drinks Glue does check the Fanatic's Tower, and lo and behold, he sees the Shrouded One.
Right.
And runs away.
Yeah,
no part of that Shadow.
So Shadow is at Fanatic's Tower. He's going to bark up some Ebbets Rock coral here. Keith McRock's getting Golem out of Burning House, so that might be huge later on in the seed if we do not come across Fenrir or any other way to give ourselves some calmness protection, although I believe you said Drinks Glue has life 3 on an Esper, so he might be fine that way.
Yeah, life 3, one of several ways to get through calmness. Of course, we all know tier 3, that you defeat the boss in the third tier of the final boss fight, uses an attack called calmness, which murders some of your folks. And the only way around it, well, there's a few ways, but the easiest way around it, Golem, Fenrir, life 3, probably in that order. And life 3 is a little slower, a little more clunky, but it works. It works just fine, unless you get double calmness, in which case it works less than just fine. But either way, having Golem is always a nice thing to have. I don't know if Keith is super happy with the cost and time that he paid to get that Golem, but he does have it now, so he will treasure it forever, I'm sure.
He also knows that he's not going to run into Goddess later in Kefka's Tower, right? So that's something that Glue is not going to have unless they go do their Burning House here. And it's simultaneous Ebbets Rock. Man, this is such a great showcase for our event. Fortunately, this is one of the old flag sets rolled on the latest version of Worlds Collide, where once you get to 22 or more pieces of coral, you get warped to one of the 3 static rooms instead of praying to the RNGesus that you get out of this thing alive. So thank goodness for that.
Yeah, took some of the sass out of this check, which was one that I think people heavily avoided. Now they just sort of moderately avoid it. Unfairly, for the record, I don't think this check is that terrible.
It is by far and away the best Strago check. I don't know if that's a high bar phrase, but
yeah, no, I don't think anybody could argue that. It's definitely a top 3 Strago check and probably a top 1 check, as we are going to get a character out of it. So the gamble of avoiding Shadow pays off as Drinks Glue instead.
No.
Well, maybe it didn't pay off.
Although, I don't think if you've got Umaro, right? We didn't peek what the reward was when we were in Narsh.
No, we didn't.
Drinks Glue. Immediate Umaro.
Drinks Glue, doing Drinks Glue things, dropping Go-Go from Umaro. Doesn't even look.
Oh, there we go.
Doesn't even see what commands Umaro has. Just puts him in the party.
Dragoon boots in a pot over there. I did not see that with when Keith was originally looting this town. So we do have a boots and horn combination Dragoon possibility in play here, but I don't know if we'll see it with the amount of sharp sticks that we have.
That's just it. I was thinking it was tempting until you've got access to effectively unlimited Illuminas. I mean, at this point, if you found a thrower, you'd be thinking about getting the thrower in your party and stocking up more of those Illuminas to hurl at things. So as we see Keith going to Daryl's tomb, which we know will unfortunately offer him up only a gem box. So Keith encountering some adversity early on in the seed as Drinks Glue continues to make some pretty good progress.
I will say, though, taking a look at both of their parties, that Keith's crew is at level 21 and Drinks Glue's is at level 22. So although Keith is further behind in terms of just raw numbers, they both are about at the same levels and power numbers at the moment. So it's still anybody's race early on, because now Keith has done some of the longer checks. He's going to make up some time on Drinks Glue here on this end.
Yeah, I think one fought a Goddess, the other fought a Dragon, roughly equivalent in terms of how much of an experience boost you're going to get. I think the big advantage here currently goes to Drinks Glue, who is, I would say, highly unlikely to now go do Burning House. So I think he will avoid that time sink, especially given the fights in there. even with a good offense, that would not be a very fast Burning House.
Yeah, because you're running away from those level magic encounters almost every time. And
and
those ogre
potentially
ones get far worse actually when you're higher level, because you'll do way more damage to yourself than when you're lower level.
And just lose a bit of time, because occasionally they're just going to hit you with zombites, and you're going to have to waste time revivifying and possibly healing, and it's just an embarrassing debacle.
All right, so Keith takes a peek at this boss and decides, I want to fight it. We're at 4 bosses for Drinks Glue and 2 bosses for Keith McRocks at the moment, so this will be Keith's third. I'm assuming that Drinks Glue will do both of the bosses up here, and then maybe the dragon as well. So he'll be at 6 by the time he's done with World of Ruin Narsh, and then we can see if we have to go down into Zone Eater, or if we have to go back to Fanatic's Tower to go get Shadow.
Yeah, easy call here, I think, for Drinks Glue to just run this whole place. One of the most convenient dragons to do, especially if Tritalk, always a fine check, especially when you've got Umaro. So I think Drinks Glue is probably very happy, and we see Keith following suit, probably going to do the exact same thing, because it's a pretty good choice. Drinks Glue actually looking to save before the dragon, so being a little cautious. Maybe he doesn't trust his beloved Yeti that much.
Yeah, I don't know.
Actually skipping the dragon.
Yeah, so sometimes if you do the dragon after, you might be able to learn the new spells on the Espers that you may potentially get here. So that it's a little bit of backtracking, but if one of the reasons why you fight dragons is to learn spells, then this is a decent idea in order to get yourself some more spells.
Yeah, hoping to find that one Esper that's going to teach you Merton or Ultima, or maybe find that Esper that's going to give you, in this situation, maybe a strength +2, or a strength +2 Esper that they might want to get value from. But yeah, interesting choice. I mean, especially with an Illumina or Ragnarok based offense, levels are just so nice. I'm surprised to see him even putting off the dragon, as Keith just makes a beeline for the Dirt Dragon.
Yeah, I don't think we really need the drop off of the dragon right now.
No. We'll also note that now that he's no longer fighting Goddess, his procs have stopped. His Illuminas no longer cast pearls, so RNG continues to laugh churlishly at Keith McRocks.
Ooh, Strago setting the world on fire with Merton. So we already got Merton online there for Keith, and we'll see what we get besides our Magus Rod, which will actually power up our Strago to get +7 magic power beyond the 57 or whatever he's got at the moment. Now he's at 60. Yeah, there you go.
Great find. I mean, Strago is famously like one of the 14 best characters in the game, so it's not a surprise to see him doing such good work in this one. But 65 magic power Merton, it's hard to argue with.
Yeah, that's doing way more damage than the Illuminas are doing at the moment. Ooh, Edgar taking a nap there.
Yeah, so we're seeing Keith now. We're doing this in the opposite order, as Keith is going to pick, I think, a Bismarck from the Tritalk spot.
Yep.
And pretty easy dragon fight for Drinks Glue, but unfortunate to miss on that XP for Edgar. Again, XP is so precious when you're swinging Illuminas.
Alright, so he did not go down into the Yeti cave yet. A bit of an interesting play. Normally you either see the dragon first or the dragon last, but we have a dragon sandwich here for Drinks Glue, and we'll see what the other slice of bread will be when we hop down into the Yeti cave. And now I'm hungry for a sandwich.
Yeah, you've played us both with that one. Thanks. My stomach immediately grumbled. So thanks for that, Schwantz. I believe this stream is sponsored by Jimmy John's. Go now with the Flashback 20 code to get 20% off your next order at Jimmy John's. As we've entered the Coliseum, it looks like, oh gosh, what's happening?
Well,
we're
I was hoping
digging
that
deep
would be,
here.
I was hoping that would be seamless, but that was definitely not seamless.
I see nothing. This is seamless. We do see Katana Soul. That's seemingly what Drinks Glue has been for this whole time. So he's going to get that offering, and he's going to get that cash infusion, which he can use to purchase more Katana Souls, or he wishes. He can purchase more Mega Elixirs. Meanwhile, Keith McRocks just keeping his eye on the prize. Now, I do wonder if our intrepid heroes here will fight the boss regardless of what they find in this bone carving, just to get their boss count up. Would you be doing that as well, or would you bounce out if it was a dead check?
Well, it is going to be a character here who's going to be walking, bumbling, stumbling, rumbling down from the Yeti cave. Oh, it's our best girl, Tara. Or,
yes,
I might say some people's best girl, Tara. I don't want to.
She's the best. She's the best character in the game. There's no question. She's a top 1 character.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to fight an airplane for it. Yeah, 23k GP is a lot in a barter seed, so Drinkskoo happy to spend some time to get to that Katana Soul, so he can use that later in the game for consumables, or maybe to round out the relics in his party a little bit later on here.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, it's that much gold plus 500 because he can sell the offering, so just a real windfall. Air Force going down as he usually does because he doesn't have nearly enough HP. Needs to be normalized, if you ask me. We need to normalize that HP and really give that Air Force a boost.
You have just speaking some fighting words here into existence. All right, with the fact that Terra, we know, can wear those Illuminas, going in over Gogo seems to be an ideal solution to that problem. Now Keith has got a lot of checks to go find. He's got all of Edgar's stuff, all of Terra's stuff still to do. So we'll see which one he chooses.
Yeah, that's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, it's nice that it's Terra, fairly quick, fairly easy to do, but it's so many checks that it's sometimes hard to find what you're looking for. The fortunate thing is that he's not looking for characters, so if he can't find a character in those Terra checks, that's kind of a feature, not a bug. But she is also the most recent character he's found, so she might lead him to characters, which would not be great. But I think we'll probably see some Welk and maybe even some Zozo visiting, although I suppose people don't love the Zozo check.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have enough things that we could just say, hey, let's just do the peekable checks. We've got way too many needs here. Maybe we go visit Mobliz and see what is on the table. Unfortunately, in a barter seed, the Zen Thief is usually going to be a bit out of reach.
Yeah, Zen Thief and Auction House, neither very appealing even with the power, the budgetary, financial power of Katana Soul behind you, it's tough to make that deal.
Oh my god, that sets are stacked. He's got over 100 evade and magic evade. It's wild.
Yeah, the power of dual Illuminas. He's laughing in the face of Paladin Shields. He's got that immunity all set up for himself.
Alright, so first stop for Drinkskoo is the Sealed Gate Cave here. I don't suspect... Oh, he is he? No? He is going to raid the treasure room.
Tough choice. And
opening loot boxes is just too tempting to pass up here.
Yeah, it's hard not to, because I mean, you really, when you sit back and think about it, what are you looking for here? I mean, is there anything that really moves the needle? Unlikely. You've got Illuminas, you've got Mega Elixirs, you've got all the answers to all the questions. I mean, he's got an Ice Shield now from this and another Genji armor, which they don't hurt, but are those going to get him back those times, or the time from spending in there? Luckily, it's a quick visit in there, but yeah, it's tough to not open it, but at the same time, what are you looking for from those chests at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask yourself as a runner, right? Am I going to get the time back for putting the time in? It looks like he's going to just run through the Sealed Gate Cave straight to the end, which sort of makes sense here. He needs 4 more Espers in order to unlock Final Kefka. He is at 6 bosses looking based on his tracker, so he still needs 3 more to get to that 9 number that we talked about for doing the full party through lane number 3 in Kefka's Tower. Keith also has 6 bosses to his count. So both of our runners here just looking for 3 more bosses in order to get into Kefka's Tower with enough to do a full party middle clear and then warp back to the other 2 side statues.
And very doable, especially because of who they picked up. So the nice thing about Terra is that one of her checks gets you 2 boss fights. So if you go over and do Mobliz, that's 2 bosses taken care of. But in addition to that, you've still got Zozo, you've still got Welk, which are both pretty brisk. Spend about a minute wandering around and then fight a boss. So lots of options to get some quick bosses in here. To say nothing of Toilet Atma if they want to even go there. Oh, the greatest dead check of all.
my favorite relic in the entire game, Marvel Shoes.
Yeah, we found a gem box and a Marvel Shoes. The hits keep coming for these.
All right, so Keith is going to get his pair of Espers here between the engine room and assuming he goes all the way down to Ancient Castle. So he'll be at 6 and 6 with possibly another dragon in the next 4 to 5 minutes. Let's see where Drinks Glue decides to go. And it looks like he's going to do Welk and possibly Kefka at Narsh here while we're at it. I like combining these two things into one check. The more things you can do while you're in one area, the better off you sort of are. It's kind of a holdout from other randomizers, right? Because in Worlds Collide, you kind of don't think about, hey, I'm near this other check, I might as well do it. Whereas in some other games, more like adventure games, that's more of the strategy there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big efficiency play. I mean, that's why the holy grail here is when you have Mog and Terra come in. Lone Wolf into Kefka at Narsh, into Moogle Defense, into Welk, or the other alternative, like some of these in World of Ruin Narsh, we can do Locke and Umaro's checks. It just feels like a great efficiency gain, and if you've got the characters in that right order, then you can really make up some time doing that.
All right, let's see. This is a Sabin, so we'll see if Drinks Glue decides he wants Sabin or not. Oh boy.
Luckily, a pretty easy fight for his offense. I think his Illuminas should make quick work of this guy as long as he can avoid getting end-crossed too heavily.
Well, thankfully, this isn't a Doom's Rage seed like we were talking about earlier, and we do have access to thaw out our characters with some fire spells. It looks like Keith is going to go to the Ancient Castle, so they'll be at 6 Espers by the time Drinks Glue is probably walking up to Kefka at Narsh.
Drinks Glue also opening up a few more quick boss fights, so Sabin does offer up Mount Colts and Barren Falls, both of which are pretty quick in terms of just go there, walk a little bit, or walk almost not a bit at all at Barren Falls and fight a boss. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Drinks Glue will be, if not skipping altogether, he will be doing a full party and then skip approach to KT like we were talking about earlier.
And Umaro is chilling out just like he usually is. Even the Umaro apologist is not unfreezing Umaro in this fight and did unfreeze Edgar. I'd like to point that out, chat.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this is a great example. Something I think objectively the worst character in the game, maybe even the worst character in the entire franchise. So to see him frozen here, I think just is a testament to how poor of a character. Yeah, I said what I said. I mean, I'm ranking him below Vaughn and I don't know, whoever else you want to talk about being terrible.
Yeah, I little secret here. I haven't played any other Final Fantasy games, so I don't know who you're talking about, but I'll agree with you.
None of them are good. Don't worry. They're all, even this one, they're all awful games. We all know.
Fair enough.
Riddled with chocobos and moogles. Those things aren't even real. How do they expect us to take these games seriously, I ask you?
Alright, so, we did get an Illumina from the Dragon Drop too. I didn't realize that on the first time around through here, and that's Keith's 6 Esper now for Phantom. And just as you mentioned, Double Down, we are heading straight to our easy, quick boss fight.
Yeah, quick and with a free heal. So, don't have to sleep in the Figaro Castle Inn anymore now that you've got the Barren Falls heal.
Yeah, it feels like one of those things like when you're a younger kid and you come home from the holidays and you're sleeping in your own bed. That was what Blue must have felt like a little bit earlier.
Probably. And, that's exactly.
And Piranhas and Rosopas at Barren Falls.
Yeah, I believe that's the name of somebody's favorite Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide cover band, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that Haydn and the Hyde Knights? I can never remember.
Barren Falls, a beautiful venue, an outdoor venue, if you will. Great acoustics.
A little wet, but, rain or shine, we're putting the show on. Interesting, too, with this flag set. So with the boss skip, what I really found playing the Coliseum the first time around, and now that we're reliving those glory days, it does change the equation on what checks you want to favor. So some checks that normally I would not love, because of the nature of the skip, I love a little bit more. So Mobley's World of Ruin is a great example. That might be one of my least favorite checks in the game, just because you've got to fight the 2 fights, and sometimes that second fight is just awful depending on who gets Bobble Breathed away. In this, it's a pretty attractive check, as we see Drinks Glue find not at all what he's looking for. A pretty attractive check in that you're doing 2 bosses for 1 check. In the same way, Doma Dream, normally probably my very favorite check in the whole game. In this, not quite so favorite, because it's a little time spent and you're only fighting 2 bosses in that. So I tend to really like checks in this flag set, or in any Coliseum flag set for that matter. I really like checks that get you 1 or 2 bosses, or like a couple extra boxes. Even Magitech. Magitech 3 becomes a little more attractive in this flag set compared to other flag sets.
Yep, and these bosses are not randomized, so we won't have repeat bosses to worry about.
Yeah.
Oh no.
The character parade continues.
Alright, so Glue looks like they're gonna take Mog. I get doing this because this is a quick boss, but at what point do you just say, yes, I don't need a character, I need my stuff to beat the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, he's maybe just not even looking at the kind of dive and then skip. I think he's maybe just thinking of outright skipping in KT, which with his party comp and with his offense makes all the sense in the world. I think any one of his parties should be able to single-handedly deal with pretty much any boss he encounters. So I don't blame him for just nailing down bosses. And I mean, you got a behemoth suit out of this one, which Strago will probably appreciate, but a bad chain of checks for Drinks Glue, unfortunately, in terms of the route luck.
Alright, so Keith skipping right over Fnatic's tower. Drinks Glue was the one that peaked Fanatics, not Keith. And he is going to, however, show us what's at Mobliz here. As Drinks Glue hits Mog after he's already done Cherish check, but thankfully not after he's done Kefkat Narshan. Oh no, Keith. No dog skip.
Didn't successfully get rid of the dog. I hate to see it.
Well, I bet that'll make some of the dogs in the community very happy. Alright, so let's see. Let's talk to this little girl and see what the reward is. Carbuncle, yes. We definitely want an Esper, so we're going to go ahead and do this one. Doma Castle up here for Drinks Glue. I like this check. I know you just said I don't like Doma Castle. It stinks with just 2 bosses, but with what Glue has to get, he needs 2 Espers, right? And the Doma Dream 1 and Doma Dream 3 are Esper item only choices. So
I hate that quote is now associated with me. I hate that my official line is that I hate what is officially my very favorite check in the game. You terrible, and you've hurt my feelings in a lot of subtle and deep-seated ways that I will have to go through some therapy to do. But in the meantime, Keith McRocks, look at this guy. 2 bosses in the span of like 30 seconds he's going to pick up here. I mean, you tell me which of these checks is better in this specific flag set.
Well, they don't call me Schwantz the Spinster for nothing. So away goes Strago.
I thought that was the 18 cats that you own.
All right.
Umaro once again proving his intense value by attacking Chatternook in lady form.
Yep.
The best character in the game, you know?
So one of the fun things I did with this week's Living Seed, which is at its last week before it gets reset to one of the Flashback Battle Royale sets of flags for Season 12, is I made Chatternook's More Demon flag off. So this fight's going to stink in that seed. So anybody that wants to see how bad a Chatternook fight can really get, join the Living Seed this week, and you're welcome.
On the bright side, I think that's like the least offensive of those 4 boss fixes. I will take a demon Chatternook over zingers from Soul Savers or Ultima from Matchy Master any day. Setzer has once again decided that now is a great time for procs. So Keith's Illumina luck continues to just pay out dividends.
Oh, Setzer. But thankfully, Atma is weak to the standard elements, if you will, and that Ice 3 putting in some damage there from Terra. As Drinks Glue does pick up his 6 Esper, he finally gets a shiny stone after what seems like 7,000 checks.
Yeah, and finding most of the cast of the game in the process. Luckily, he's not going to find one here. We see an imp jumping across the train cars, so he doesn't have to deal with the shame of finding Gao here or something like that.
Mute and Life 3 on that Carbuncle. Unfortunately, Keith has both Siren and Golem, so that's
Yeah,
a little bit less
redundant,
useful. But he... Oh, I put the Esper on the wrong person. He does have the lead in terms of shiny stones, so...
And Mute does have a slightly faster cast time than Siren, so he has picked a small efficiency gain there. Maybe that will be the difference in this race, because it is kind of getting close here.
Yeah, we'll see if Keith can avoid some of the pitfalls of some of the checks that Drinks Glue has run into. Gonna check
all down to
the
routing
Zen
here.
Thief in the World of Balance. We saw it in the World of Ruin. It was 40-something thousand, which is pretty out of reach. We'll see if it's more doable here in the World of Balance. Yeah, not really, and it's not an Esper anyway, so unfortunately can't just buy our way into Final Kefka today.
No, we do have some options. Like I don't think we've seen either of our runners explore the Zone Eater. The community favorite checks in this game, of course. I think we're still missing on that one. And then, of course, there's a bunch of Terra checks. Like I think we're doing Zozo now, which I think is a fine check to do here. There's also the Leet River, which I'm less convinced is a fine check to do here, and I don't imagine we'll see.
Well, funnily enough, the Leet River was buffed in one of the more recent patches to Worlds Collide, so it's not as bad as it used to be. However, it is definitely the longest of the Terra checks of her 5.
I mean, he's already done the Burning House, so he's shown an appetite for that kind of nonsense. So maybe the Leet River is not as outlandish for Keith as it is for us river haters.
Well, I think context matters, right? He did Burning House as his first check to not only fight a boss, but also get levels beforehand instead of taking off the Mogul Charm and grinding like Drinks Glue did. So I would imagine if we had Terra instead of Strego, we might have seen Elite River early, but we're definitely not going to see one. Well, I say definitely, and of course, he's going to prove me wrong here. But
I mean, I assume
later.
I assume he did Burning House because of just love of the game, and that's a great reason to do Leet River as well. We'll have to ask, assume. I mean, Leet River is it's just a lovely experience. So why deprive yourself of that opportunity? The scenic river, the gently rolling waves, it's beautiful.
Speaking of lovely experiences, if you are interested in joining our event, Flashback Battle Royale, go ahead and hit up that link right there. You could still sign up, and I think I screwed up actually that command because it's got a link to sign up. Oh no, that's the Google form. That is the correct link. I just didn't tiny URL it because I never trust tiny URLs.
Yeah.
As a security administrator or a security adjacent programmer by my day job, tiny URL is the bane of my existence. But yes, go ahead and sign up for the Flashback Battle Royale. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to get to play wildly different flag sets with wildly different options and wildly different strategies each week, which is part of the reason why Worlds Collide is my favorite rando to play.
Yeah, even the same flag set can offer up a very, very different experience. It's wonderful. As Drinks Glue is insisting on petting these dogs multiple times.
So that's Keith's last Warp Stone and was only an experience egg at the top. So I don't know if he'll be doing Zone Eater anytime soon, but that's a bit unfortunate there, speed bump. And now he's going to pick up Sabin and run into this long cast of Parade that Drinks Glue had.
Yeah, this looks like it might be turning against him, especially because it did end up being a 3-for-3. So, Drinks Glue really vaulted ahead by being able to do that Dome of Dream. Dome of Dream's still way off for Keith, given where he is in the character parade. So, yeah, things are starting to slip away from Keith just due to routing at this point. Because all things considered, I think their offenses are very similar. We're just looking at a few brute squads of people running around wailing people with Illuminos.
All right, so this will be go mode for Drinks Glue as he'll get his 9th Esper here, and he is at 11 bosses right now, so he'll get Kefka Tower skip unlocked after Funbaba huffs and puffs and COVIDs away half of his party. There you see the KT skip complete notification, and he'll get the Kefka unlock afterwards, so Drinks Glue is about ready to head into the tower here.
Yeah, I think, again, can't stress enough, important consideration with this check. Like 2 checks towards the skip is not a small deal. That's really useful, and especially with this kind of offense, where Drinks Glue, he has all the levels he could want, he has all the offense he can want, any one of his characters, I'm sure he would trust to take a lane in KT. So, this is not a situation where you really are thinking heavily about the dive and then skip, or like, do I need to fight another dragon? Drinksglue is just going to go in there. He's going to destroy a bunch of bosses, and then he's going to obliterate the final Kefka battle. So Keith has his work cut out for him trying to catch up here because, he needs to find some Espers ASA possible.
When that ticks over the hour mark, that logo's going to have to go away anyway, so let's just do that. Trying to fill up the screen real estate with as much eye candy as possible.
Well, don't forget to put our Jimmy John's logo. Remember, that's WC Flashback 20 for 20% off your next Jimmy John's order.
We don't have any promo codes, unfortunately. Just great race action.
I've ordered so many Jimmy John's sandwiches over the last 10 minutes to abuse this order code. Are you telling me the code is not getting me a discount?
Well, the code will at least get you a better discount than Honey would. Anyway. All right, so that's go mode for Drinksglue there with his 9th Esper. And we'll see if he dives straight in the tower or if he decides to overload a party first. What do you think his strategy is going to be here?
I think he's going in. I don't think there's going to be any kind of double dipping shenanigans. I think he's going to go in and to try to destroy all these bosses as quick as he can. And I think with his offense, unless he runs into an untimely Magi Master and half his team knows Berserk, I don't think there's much that can stop him at this point.
All right.
Like for you, if you're looking at this offense that Drinksglue, what's the nightmare scenario for bosses that you're worried about here?
Nothing. We've got We've got Berserk. Goddess. But we already know Goddess won't be here. He doesn't know, but we know that Goddess won't be here.
Yeah, I mean, don't know that I'd love to see a Tri-Talk in this situation. You'd have a little bit of, Tri-Talk could be. Yeah, there's really no bosses that are scary here.
Yeah, we have access to some fire magic just in case.
And he has so many characters that even something like Tentacles, which would normally be awkward, I feel like with this sort of lineup, you've just got so many bodies that you're not worried about getting stuck in like Sea's hell for 10 minutes. So yeah, he's looking fairly unstoppable at this point.
All right. Meanwhile, on the other side, Keith did go up to Kefka at Narsh. He's getting his skip right there, and this is not going to be a character, so we'll see if he grabs an Esper, and then there it is. He'll just need one more in order to get go mode. However, he's got to make the right choice here, and the right choice is not Barren Falls.
No, it's not, and that's the most tempting. We didn't see him.
I don't know. He's got skip already, so he doesn't have to take a boss here, right? So why not peek Collapsing House or Imperial Camp?
Yeah, Imperial Camp, semi-peekable. Not a bad one to check. Just a little time-consuming. 4 fights, even though he's going to run roughshod over those fights, it is a little tough. I mean, fights take time, as we all know, that just sitting through message boxes at the end of a fight or waiting for your fellows to do a little dance during the victory celebration, it's a time sink, no matter how fast you kill them.
Uh-oh. Here comes the Evil Toot.
Evil Toot. Highlight reel denied.
Yeah, this would have been a somewhat problematic boss had Evil Toot been a little worse.
Well, think of all the footage of us just now talking about how unstoppable, self-annihilated by an Evil Toot. We would have been looking great for the highlight reel.
All right, so Keith does see a ghost holding up the house here, and he's not opening up any chests. We're making a beeline for the kid, because he knows that he's running up against Drinksglue, who won our last non-Ultros League event, if I recall correctly. Is that right?
He did, yes. The Kefka Grand Prix Deluxe, which you can no longer sign up for. Don't go sign up for that one. But you can go sign up for the Flashback Battle Royale, which is just five short days, human days. So get signed up for that now. We have thousands of people already signed up, but you could still get involved.
And Dadaluma, hi Dad, bye Dad. See you later with one double swing of the Illuminas. Drinksglue has now got 3 bosses down in KT.
I like Dedaluma. Oh, a dead chat for Keith McRocks.
Yeah,
Go
that's
up,
unfortunate.
up the mountain, my young son. Go to Mount Colt. See if you can find yourself an S.
Yeah, so out of the choices he's got now, he basically has Leet River, yuck, and then Sabin stuff. Because remember, he doesn't have a Warp Stone.
Did he do Sealed Gate? I can't remember if he did Sealed Gate.
He did not do Sealed Gate, but those were some Marvel shoes at Sealed Gate.
That's true. Yeah, I just didn't know if he was gonna like end up having to lose the time there as well.
Oh boy, and
Drinks,
here we go.
Drinks glue. Oh no.
Look at who we got.
So anyway, Poltergeist started blasting.
Yeah, this boss is going to be fine.
Oh, he runicked the blaster. Drinks
Nice.
glue. Heads up play. That's a nice move. I like it.
And I also think that using Morph here is the right call. So Morph will double any damage that you do, both physical and magical damage. So not only did that sword swing do twice as much damage, but the proc did as well. And you will get 50 MP worth of meter towards your next Morph at the end of this fight. So how Morph works is it will tick down based on how much you fill it up, and you fill it up using MP that you've gained from different fights. And 255, because this is the SNES after all, 255 is the most amount of Morph MP you could have at one time.
I also like using up my morph gauge on these very final bosses because I find going in, like especially a situation like this where you're going to get enough to morph again after, I find it makes it a lot easier if I do want to go for permamorph in the final Kefka fight. If I have a short morph gauge, I feel like it's a little easier to time getting permamorph on like 10 hits. So for folks who don't know, if you are morphed during one of the uninterruptible counters or like kind of dying animations of final Kefka bosses, morph can become permanent. It's an allowable glitch in basically all of our events, including this one. Although you can check the rules to learn more. The rules are linked in the chat. But that would leave your person morphed for the entire duration of the rest of the fight, which is kind of huge. Especially for these Illumina offenses, where, as Schwan said, it's adding a boatload of damage and making you look really cool as well. So I do like it because it's just a little easier to time when you don't have a giant morph gauge or a morph gauge that you're just not sure how long.
All right, so Keith looks like they are going to go do a Phantom Train peak at this point. Yeah. A little bit longer than Imperial Camp, probably, but if this has got an Esper, then you know you're in go and just do it and finish up this check.
Yeah, it's a fair choice.
And drum roll, please. There we go.
The goat. Keith is doing fine for levels here. 5, 4. Be prepared to fight Kefka when he's done this check. I don't think we'll be seeing our racers hunting dragons on either side of this, as Drinks Glue is just about heading up to the KT switches here.
Throwing that merit award on his Umaro to make sure that he could wear all of the gears.
Yeah, a bit of a contradiction in terms there as we or value whatsoever. So a bit of an interesting choice to give him a that suggests that he has some sort of value or worth as a being. So a bold choice by Drinks Glue, but he's done it. So
well, with this high of level, you're not going to run into anything bad, really. It's just a matter of, is Yeti going to do something dumb like proc and Ultima? And if he does, you just have to be ready for it. But with HP values this high, it doesn't really matter.
I just think my biggest concern would be that if you give him a merit award, you're going to give him ideas above his station, and I don't think you want that in a Yeti.
No way. Strago taking a nap on the job there as Keith learns the hard way that those mad Oscars will absorb wind, so don't try and use a wind spell on those guys.
Looks like Drinks Glue is going to have a brief conversation with Kefka, and then he's going to start the final Kefka proceedings, and that's going to take some indeterminate amount of time. But exactly how much time do you think it's going to take?
Well, we do have access to mute. Do we have instant death other than Chainsaw and Prey? And then we have Life 3. So this is going to take a little longer than if we had all the tools. However, we have a lot of levels. So I'm going to go with 7 minutes and 14 seconds.
And you in chat, too, can make your prediction by typing into chat, putting the numbers with a colon in between to separate the minutes and seconds of your guess of how long this fight's going to take. Once you've typed that in, go ahead and hit enter. That'll put it into chat and we'll all be able to see it. If you do not hit enter, only you will be able to see it on your screen, and we won't know if you were right or not.
When did we start? 150, 105, 55, let's call it?
That's
sure.
Pretty much it.
Yeah. All right, Niles and Frazier at the end of the Phantom Train, and these are going to go down in one hit. So Keith will be in the tower before long here. Interesting strategy from Drinks Glue, taking out the long arm first and the short arm afterwards. Don't normally see that. And unfortunately, you see here the reason why Umaro is not actually the best character to use if you've got Illuminas hanging around. Since Umaro doesn't technically earn any MP, he can't actually crit using the Illumina if you swing with it. So all of the characters are doing way more damage than Yeti is, and that's just due to the nature of the fact that they can't get the 2 times. And I don't know if we're going to have a reset here because of a dead Strago.
I think he's queued up a little aggressively. Yes, he sure has. So that is the reason.
Reset here, or do you just keep?
I think he's fine. So I mean, this is the danger of queuing up too many attacks in Final Kefka, is that you want to keep very close control over when you're phasing from different bosses or what counterattacks are coming in. Especially when you've got something like Illumina, where the damage is very variable depending on whether you get proc or not. If you queue too much, you can end up in a situation like this where there just wasn't enough time to keep Strago from being a statue. But I do think in this situation, I mean, honestly, you can almost solo this with Setzer. Setzer and one other, I think you have enough damage to safely finish this fight. I also think if you're Drinks Glue in this situation, you're probably sitting here thinking about passive offense. You've seen this. You've got to be assuming that Keith McRocks is like right on your tail, if not ahead of you. So I'm sure Drinks Glue is probably in the mindset that every second counts here.
Yeah, you don't win the Chupon's pal reward in the Discord for nothing, right?
That's right. That's right. And true to form, Keith is not very starting this 4 minutes, maybe. I mean, his offense, we've been saying it basically this whole season, but this is a very, very fast offense. There's not much strategizing, not much getting into menus. You're holding A and you're just doing vast amounts of damage to things. So Keith will not be slowed down by many of these boss fights.
Right, there's one of the worries that I had mitigated, as we got a block of Doom Tusk from Setzer with his 100 plus evade and 100 plus magic evade. Basically, is just, you know, a beacon of dodging there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would have been even worse if Doom Tusk was on somebody else, because, of course, you can get into a situation quickly here where Umaro is your only person standing. He is very poor at using Revivifies to heal his friends from being a zombie. In fact, he's incapable of it. Another reason why he is the worst character in not just the Final Fantasy franchise, but all of JRPGs.
Oh, wow, we've expanded the scope now. We're getting a bigger and bigger pool of things that Umaro was bad at as the seed goes along.
We're just being more honest as we go on.
Alright, so that is Ghost Train down in 2 hits. The only danger, I think, here for Keith will be that Poltergeist fight, but again, with the HP totals and levels that we have, I don't think even a Poltergeist would be scary. It's just a matter of, can you get lucky enough to not be stop blastered a few times?
That's it. And I mean, especially if he can get a little bit of luck back on his procs and proc the right things, a couple of quick procs in that fight might be done in 2 fight commands.
Alright, we got the 10 hits coming out for Drinks Glue, and I believe that'll be the end of Tier 2 for him, on to Tier 3.
Yeah, not much danger from 10 hits when you're holding Illuminas in most of your appendages. I think you're looking at block most of those attacks.
Hi, Dad, bye,
It's
Dad.
fun. Yeah, that Illumina's gone. As we go to Tier 3, now, this is a situation where if I'd had a full of Illumina people, I don't even know how much time I'd be spending working on calmness protection. Unfortunately, Drinks Glue did have that mishap with Strago, and he can't afford to lose any more bodies, so he's going to have to spend a little time here either using Life 3 or I don't think he found Golem, so I think Life 3 is his only solution if he wants to preserve his Illumina users.
Yeah, Golem was at the burning house, which is a check that Keith did that Drinks Glue did not do.
That's right.
And we have the Kappa Cyan coming through. Hopefully he will be the target of the Ire of Sleep at the death counter, because I don't even think Edgar or Setzer know Life 3. I think Strago was the only one that learned any decent chunk of spells.
I think so, and I don't think he taught it to Amaro either. So yeah, he's in a situation.
Oh boy, this is risky
he has
with Vanish.
Vanished,
Oh.
yeah, and Medio immediately to show him why Vanish is frustrating this fight.
And that's why it's called an Immediate. And of course, Umaro proc in the next Medio here.
He's helping, quote unquote.
Yeah,
This will be the end of this.
Oh boy, the block. And the double block!
Blocked by a Ragnarok user.
He had two of them, to be fair.
Well, we've got a minute now to wait until we see Final Kefka, which is enough time for you. And right now, if you order with the code WC Flashback 20, you'll get 20% off your next Jimmy John's order. Jimmy John's, sandwich shop that keeps America running.
Sorry, I think your mic was your mic noise gate cut you off there when you said what you were trying to do.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, I guess we won't get that promo code for Jimmy John's.
All right, so Final Kefka coming down here for Drinks Glue. We do have to be careful of Ultima only because Edgar won't survive it. I think we'll probably... I don't know if we'll bypass Fallen One. And this will probably help, though.
Yeah, the biggest risk here, I think, is an untimely getting him into Ultima before he's ready for it. Or Umaro doing it.
All right, well, there's... See you later, Edgar. All right, so do we press on? It looks like Drinks Glue is going to press on. On second thought, I'm a liar.
I think you have to do this, but Umaro is just such a ticking time bomb in this situation. All right, the danger is past.
Yeah, so Edgar will not survive this goner unless we get this instead. Yeah, because I don't know if Setzer would have went, I don't think he would have killed Kefka. But Yeti says, hold my beer.
It's over.
And that is it. 1:12:36. Get your GGs in chat for Drinks Glue.
GG, Drinks Glue, GG.
You want to drag him in for an interview here?
Sure. Question, chat. Why did Glue not berserk Umaro? Well, there's a saying about stick and pigs. I think that probably applies here, that you just don't want to embellish one of the worst PCs in the game. And speaking of somebody who has a fondness for that worst character in the game, Drinks Glue, GG, well run. Congratulations.
Thank you. I assume we were talking about Cyan.
We were not, sir. We were talking about a different character.
Oh, okay. So obviously Strago.
No, not Strago either, my friend. So tell us, before we continue that subject, tell us, how do you feel about the seed?
It was kind of over when you find Illuminas and Ragnaroks in a barter shop. But then the seed was like, you know what? We're going to give you big swords, but we're not going to give you espers. We're going to give you lots of characters, lots of big swords, but no espers. So good luck finding espers. And it feels really bad too, because potentially two are in the auction house, and there's always Zen Thief, but I guess Feast or Famine with the money there with that ×1 multiplayer, and Cat Hood didn't even help that.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Zen Thief was not selling an Esper this seed. Had you only gone to the Burning House, just simply gone there, and continued up to Kefka at Narsh before you got Mog, obviously, then it would have been fine.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Just that.
You would have had some interesting fixed encounters and a terrific boss at the end, but other than that, it would have been.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about your approach to a barter type seed that we have with Edgar's Chainsaw, and to follow up on that, the Coliseum reward giving you +10 stats across the board. Is that almost a must-do for this particular flag set?
1,000 and 24% is the Coliseum a must do. And the sooner the better, because obviously the sooner you have all those stats, the better off you will be. If you didn't catch it at the end, Yamaru body slammed twice during the Goner charging phase, and that's just a product of one, he has amazing stats, and then two, what's that, plus 10 speed. So yeah, I also kind of caught myself when I was walking down towards Figaro Basement. I was like, one, I don't have any espers for these big swords I found to get the procs going, so I went to the Coliseum. And then two, you're I know I did the basement, but you're better off spending more time doing things like visiting more shops than looting more. Just because in most normal seeds you come across something like a Minerva and you're like, oh man, that's 52,000 GP. That'd be cool to have. Well, guess what? In a barter sheet, you can have probably as many as you want. So first shop has cat hoods. One person that is not vanilla can wear it, so you buy one cat hood, and there's one Minerva. One person that is not vanilla could wear it, so you buy one Minerva, and then those two characters are set from a defensive standpoint right there.
Now, talking about spending time early in the game on different things, one thing I noticed that you did invest a lot of time in early was hunting boxes. Was that just a money play looking for Katana Soul, or what was the thought process behind the monsters in the box?
It was 1,000% fighting Katana Soul with the cat hood and letting that pay for the Zen Thief. There is no way where, unless I just went and opened 50 chests for no reason, would I have money to do the auction house in a timely manner. But Katana Soul is a bundle of cash multiplied times 2, right? And then with a few fixed encounters at a few stops throughout the way and a few things to sell, a Zen Thief was much more attainable.
Well, it worked. Got a lot of resources. We're able to pick up a lot of. Yeah, did not seem too afraid at the end. I think it became pretty clear fairly quickly for you that you were going to have skip going into this. Was there any a thought early on that you were planning on doing the dive and then out, or did you sort of come up with that quickly that you'd be skipping?
When I was 5-5, it was in the realm of possibility because I had, at that point in time, there was 6 bosses. So I was like, if I fight 3 more bosses across 4 more checks, then you have 9 bosses. Then you, with 12 boss skip, you go kill Inferno, you go kill Guardian Spot and Poltergeist Spot, right? And you warp out and you split the 2. But the character search turned it into, okay, now, if you do Mobliz, now that I found Terra, that's actually 2 bosses in 1. So if you end up at 10, 9's the sweet spot because you can do the 3 and Tempest Tower. 10's kind of weird because then you got to do 2. But then ended up where, I ended up doing 13, just going 1 over. But, the Esper was at Mobliz, so the Esper was at Mobliz. It is what it is. But it was 100% in the back of my mind trying to end up with the requirements and the bosses at the same time.
I did notice too. I mean, you found a lot of characters at the end, a lot of opportunities to switch your character. I noticed that you weren't able to do that. Was that a D-pad input error, or was there like an emulator glitch or something that prevented those switches from happening? Or do you want to walk us through that?
Allow me to share with you some facts. What if I told you there was this character in this video game that had a larger gap in their magic power between the highest caster in Final Fantasy IV and the second highest caster in Final Fantasy IV? Between second and third in Final Fantasy VI. Well, my friend, that character is Yamaru. So typically you think of him as a physical powerhouse, but he's also a very able caster as well.
Yeah, it was actually, incidentally, it was a real problem designing these flag sets for the Coliseum because all the flag sets, they had like a starting stat boost reflecting of that character's stats, and it made 0 sense for the Yamaru flag set to give him plus 20 magic power all for everybody, which it should have to match his stat line, but yeah, he's a furry little wizard, but
the more you know.
Yeah, but also a terrible character, and we can all agree on that. So now that we've played this flag set in this race, how are you feeling about the Flashback Battle Royale? Where does this flag set rate in the grand scheme of flag sets in your heart?
I think it definitely cracks the top 9. Where it falls in there is up for debate, and we could debate about that all night, to be honest. But no, I'm super excited for it. I like the alternating difficulties and challenges through the various flag sets as you progress from week to week. I'm looking forward to that. I'll swear a lot probably when I do the Zozo flags, but I do appreciate the challenge, and I like the challenge of it, and the Mad Doing table as well. Probably gonna have to stretch a little bit before I do that one. If I make it that far, we'll see when we get there. But I am looking forward to it, and it's difficult that it will difficulties that it will present for me.
It's a unique and beautiful experience. It'll really bring us all together as a community, I think. Shared trauma can really unite a populace. Anything else going on with you? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about?
No. As we know, if you haven't caught the gist of this stream tonight, Flashback Battle Royale coming up. I know it's 9 flag sets and it can be a little overwhelming, but you have endless resources, and not just the graphics we have made, but the people alone that are willing to sit down, double down once tonight and go over everything, and then they were even more willing to do so in person. The mentor program as well. We have willing and able mentors. It's been a little quiet in there, so I would appreciate if some people would put the mentors to work. I think they're getting, slacking off in there, thinking this is, a fun zone playing poker or something. But no, we're here to work.
Yeah, we don't believe in fun in this community. Fun zone?
Yeah, this is the no fun zone.
Yeah, if you want to have fun, go to Free Enterprise.
Now I completely lost my train of thought. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Drinks Glue. But yeah, so the flag sets are going to be a lot of fun. The event's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very, very excited for it as well.
Yeah, no, and again, thank you guys for doing the little preview earlier. Thank y'all for hosting me and my dog Keith McRocks, who is on tier 3 right now. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Drinks Glue. GG again.
All right,
boy, that
so
that Drinks Glue, he's one of the good ones.
Yeah, he told me he wasn't allowed to say things like that on certain other streams, so I guess he's taken out all of his frustration.
I've heard that,
on
not every
here.
rando community is as open-minded. I mean, we even allow people to use Umaro in parties in this community. That really shows you how open-minded and how welcoming we are. We're inclusive here.
We even have an emote with Strago's face on it. It's incredible.
Yeah, and without like a big no sign over. Welcoming.
All right, so Keith, unlike Drinks Glue, has all 4 of his final party members here, so this should be not a problem for him taking out Final Kefka. We'll probably even bypass the Fallen 1 phase as well.
Yeah, I would expect so. His only risk is maybe randomly happening into an Ultima. I'd say randomly, not be random, but he could hit an Ultima here, but he would survive it. He's got so many hit points. An Ultima would slow him down but not stop him. And I think, interestingly, his offense was actually the better of the 2 racers, as we see the crack pow, and he does take Kefka down. No muss, no fuss. Pretty by the numbers Kefka fight there.
Yeah, so that's a time of 1:23:26, it looks like, from our race room. So he will take home the second prize tonight as well. We'll see if he wants to come in for an interview. So it'll be interesting to hear what Keith has to say. We'll drag him in here. Keith McRocks is our guest. So Keith, thank you so much for joining us to play, and congratulations on your finish. GG. And of course, Keith can't hear me now, which is wonderful. Can you hear me, Double Down?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Can Keith hear either of us? Maybe Keith is speechless. Maybe he's appalled by what he's seen and heard on this race and has nothing he'd like to say to us. If there's one thing I know about Keith McRocks is that he doesn't like me. Nothing. Unless we're talking about Chupon, in which case we bond over our mutual love of Chupon. I don't know what the problem with it is, but no, jokes aside, Keith, another...
Oh, there we go.
Oh. Keith.
Now I can hear. Thank you. This was... I didn't have too much of a strategy going in. I jumped in last minute, but barter... I've done a couple of the barter ones lately. I don't know, just run around and see what you can find. That's my whole... I mean, this one was nice finding stuff and lots of it and just selling everything for it. But as far as the other chainsaw stuff, I did the Coliseum. I mean, once I had a stack of Illuminas just to get the stats, but there's no point in going over to do that clock at that point. So,
Yeah, you found a lot of very powerful swords, and made good use of them. You did go to what might be the worst burning house ever. Did you think about turning your back on that place, or what was the thought process? Finishing it off or running in terror at what you were seeing?
Yeah, I wanted levels, so I was like, well, this is actually giving me something. And once I got through the first fight, and I knew I had some smoke bombs and stuff to get away at least, once I saw the other half of those fights. So the levels were worth it to get through, and then just, keep grinding it out. But not that the ending was great either, but
no, it was terrible.
I think that was the only hard boss I fought the whole game. So
yeah, it was unfortunate to run into a goddess at like the only time in the seed that you completely obliterate her
and proc every time with.
Setzer did not get the memo.
No, he didn't.
But then he did figure out how to get procs when you're unfortunately.
So yeah, he's procking a lot overall. So
I think the play was cursed when you couldn't afford to stay the 1 GP at the
that didn't feel great.
I think that should have been the mission abort,
It's true. They were trying to tell me not to go in.
Yeah, very clearly telling you that.
Yeah, I have never done that before. So
Sir, you do not want to stay at this inn, please.
No, don't go in. I'm like, all right, I'll try anyways. So yeah, that's.
So you
already here.
I was going to say, you are the runner that has the Chupon's Pal award from the original Coliseum event that we put on way back when. And I know you've been in the community for a very long time, probably even longer than both of us have been. So what was sort of the event that stuck out to you, the one that you remember fondly the most from the 5 years of Worlds Collide that we've got here?
This one is nice because I won something. I liked Coliseum 1 as well. I liked the 1v1s, but my favorite was still the Setzers, the draft one. My seed was really boring, and I liked it a lot, but it wasn't anything like the others. And I was part to blame for it, but it was still we still had a lot of, it was still fun, the whole draft of it all. I think that was great, and I made it almost made it out of my table. I made it to the final 2, and I did my darndest to I faced off with Jax, and I did everything I could to make it normal. So
yeah, that was one of the interesting things about that particular event, is that you could sort of play to the room, if you will. If you knew that certain players did better with certain types of flag sets, you could either pick cards to counter their plays, or you could pick cards to make sure that they don't get those types of advantages, which is a really fun aspect about that particular event. And then others like the Madeline table, well, they just all hated one another, clearly.
Hey, I don't know. You see a mythic card, and you go, I don't know if I'll ever see it again. So, but that was a lot of fun, and I did enjoy both Coliseums when they happened, because I think early on, Coliseum 1 was pretty early on, so I had some good runs in that one. But I remember that being a lot of fun, and then 2 was wild because the final match. I really didn't do great, and then I stumbled into that one, but it was really fun, and I think it was a great view for anyone who watched it. So,
well, anything else you want to talk about? Plug any Facebook Marketplace merchandise you're trying to promote to get sold? Anything you want to talk about before we let you go?
Nothing for sale now, but yeah, that was fun. I jumped in at the last second, but I liked these themed flag sets a lot. Every week having something different enough, so I like, the variety of it. So I think this tournament is obviously even more so different every week. So it should be fun. A trip down memory lane as we've tried to pull people back in. So I think it'll be a nice showcase of a lot of what we've done over the years. So I think I'm about to hit 5 years in the community. So I was just after launch. So it's been awesome.
Hard to have much more than 5 years in the communities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty good.
Yep. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Keith, as well, for jumping in last minute for the race. We were just going to do it as a showcase with one runner, but everybody likes to watch races better than solo runs, although solo runs do have their place for sure. But want to thank you for agreeing to hop in to do a race. Can't have the races without the runners, so really appreciate you volunteering for that.
No problem.
Oh, thanks, Keith.
All right.
All right, catch you later, Keith. Thanks a lot again. GG's.
Take care.
All right, Double Down. So, just
Love
like
that Keith McRocks.
Just like the Battle Royale, we are down to just the two of us now after both of our runners have run their race. Do we have?
Yeah, and I think you're the restreamer, so I think you're going to win.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to win this one. The only event that I'll win. So I'm really looking forward to doing this. I do like, comparing the various different flag sets, and having lots of different ways to play the same game makes it interesting and fun for myself personally. I'm not that much of a grinder where I like to play the same flag set over and over again to maximize my time. I like to play lots of different things. I like randomness in my randomizer, which is kind of things that people don't like.
Weird.
But
yeah. I'm right there with you. I mean, this game has, in terms of the flag sets and the options you have, there's so many different ways to play this game that why limit yourself to just one? I mean, I like Ultros League as much as the next guy. Look at all the different ways we can play this incredible game.
Yeah, so hopefully that will shine through in this particular event. There is still time to sign up. Sign-ups close on Sunday, January the 12th. So if you're interested in joining, there have been some veterans of the community, we'll call them, who have dusted off the gloves and are joining into the fray. So if you're someone who maybe hasn't played the game for a while, come back in to this event, and you'll see all of the nice upgrades that we've added along the way. And the game is still in active development. We've recently seen some more wackier races that are still in development, and we're going to continue to iterate on the game, because that's what we like to do, because we enjoy playing the game and enjoy doing new and fancy things to it. But I'm really looking forward to seeing just all the interesting stuff that'll come out of these 9 weeks here.
Me too. I mean, I love a big async as well, to like see the whole community in one big race, share stories and talk about each other's pain. So it's gonna be great. It's gonna be an awful lot of fun. I'm really excited about it.
All right, well, thanks a lot for joining me here for this sort of event. We announced it during the Golden Golems, but we only did it at the very, very end of the stream, if you will, as sort of like a teaser. But now we sort of broke it down a little bit more for everybody. So hopefully, if you were on the fence, this hopefully pushed you into the pool. Hopefully it didn't push you away from the pool. That would have been not the right thing that I wanted to do with this, but
that's right. Get in the pool.
Yep, the water is fine. Anyway, thank you so much. And maybe we'll go on and raid one of our other channels here that are live. But until then, thank you so much. And we'll catch you later. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.